Sometimes not. What's up, everybody? Welcome to a brand new episode of Granny's Peach Tea. This is episode 35.
35, man. We're getting up there.
We're getting up there. We're going to knock out. We're going to get to 50, no problem.
We are.
We'll be the fastest PCP show to 50.
I love it.
It took 1 year. So thanks for joining us on this Friday night. Things get a little wackier on Friday night, so we'll see where the show takes us. Exactly. Could be Zemo dancing. You never really know.
That's true.
Yeah, but our opening song tonight is Hero by Chad Groger and Josie Scott. It was the big single from the movie we're going to talk about tonight, which is Sam Raimi's Spider-Man from back in 2002, a movie I've been really, really dying to talk about since we talked the inception of the show.
Can I tell you how excited I am to have Venom behind me and the Raimi films ahead of me at this point?
Yes, these next 2 weeks we're gonna cleanse ourselves of the Venom.
Yeah, and then we're gonna be poisoned again by the unamazing Spider-Man.
Again. That's why.
Yeah.
But yeah, thanks for joining us. Whether it's on the Facebook stream, if you're joining us with Pop Culture Pros on YouTube, or on Twitter, or on Instagram. Thanks for joining us. We always appreciate everything. With me, as always, is Jason. Jason,
hello.
What's up, dude?
How's it going, Eddie? How was your week?
Pretty good. I had a bit of a cold I was dealing with, which is why we had to kind of postpone from Wednesday. But feeling a little bit better now. It's that time of year.
Yeah, everyone's getting sick. I usually get sick. It's a funny story. Never got sick. Started teaching. I get sick 3 times a year because I work in a human like germ factory pretty much. Yeah. So imagine how wonderful it is to be back with COVID still around.
Oh, I'm sure you're super excited about it. You're like, I can't wait.
Excited when I stick my head out of my door and I see two people making out, and I'm just like, guys, is that socially distancing? I don't care if you're making out, just socially distance.
At least socially distance while you're making out. Like you can have the Venom song, like kind of like going far at each other, maybe.
Right, exactly. If they did that, I wouldn't be happy, but I'd feel safer.
This is true. That's fair enough. We got a comment dropping in here, though. Oh, of course. You knew this was going to be the first guy in here today. Amazing. Oh, wow. Alex is chiming in here. I'm probably not going to watch the Amazing Spider-Man episodes because those are garbage. Without burying it.
Yeah.
I think I've expressed some of my feelings on the Unamazing Spider-Sham movies, but we got to do it. We said we're going to do all Spider-Man. We're going to get through it, and maybe this time around, with some fresh eyes, maybe we'll feel a little bit differently. I mean, that's why we rewatch these movies, right?
And the thing is, I've never seen Amazing Spider-Man 2. That's like Venom. That's one of the ones that it literally took duty and service to this show to get me to watch.
I am really interested to see how that conversation goes with Amazing Spider-Man 2. I have a good feeling I know how that's going to go, but we'll see.
We'll get there. It's all right, but we don't look. That's future us's problem. Today we got Sam Raimi's Spider-Man. Willem Dafoe is giving us, it's great.
Yeah, no, I'm beyond jacked for this, so I cannot wait. But yeah, let's kick things off.
Now I gotta, Eddie, I know we put it off for a while, and I think this is why you got your cold. I think that's why you've been getting sick. We need to unhassle the Hoff tonight because I think we're running dangerously close to bringing the Hasselhoff curse of Germany down on us.
Yeah, we can't have that. So we got to definitely unhassle the Hoff a little bit. So Jason, tell us about your latest episode of Baywatch Nights.
All right, so now I'm going to be honest. I watched this episode for the show a month ago, and we're busy. So, and I didn't rewatch it because I like this show, but I'm not rewatching Baywatch Nights for y'all.
I don't like him that much.
No. So I'm just going to go through the notes I have and see if I can remember why I wrote them. So this episode was called Thin Blood, and it's pretty much Angie Harmon has a sister who comes in, and she's pretty much a thief and a scoundrel, and she double crosses her boyfriend in the beginning of the movie and steals his money and leaves him to die, and then takes the money and goes into the Mitch and Angie Harmon and the group, and the guy comes for his money, and that's pretty much the episode. and she's flirting with Mitch, and she's making Angie Harmon feel bad about herself. And all of this is to keep the money. So best moment, I just looked down at my notes, and best moment of this episode is Mitch is being chased by the gangster who's looking for Ryan's sister, and he runs to a basketball court. It's a bunch of big guys playing basketball, and like, yo, Mitch, what's up? And he's like, guys, give me a distraction. And they form a wall when the gangster tries to walk through. They're like, yo, walk around.
That's the distraction.
That was the distraction. But I love that Mitch has such street cred where he can walk onto a basketball court and go, guys, I need you.
I mean, is there no doubt that David Hasselhoff himself could probably do that?
Oh, no. If Hasselhoff walked into a ball court and they were of a certain age, absolutely.
I think it doesn't even matter. I think they would just do it because he has that aura about him.
That's true. They wouldn't even have to know that he's Hasselhoff. They would just go, "Oh, all right, let's form the human wall. We know how to. We've seen Baywatch Nights.
You can just sense it.
You could." Oh yeah, and this is going to mean nothing to no one but me, but I'm going to say it anyway. The villain is an actor who was on the soap opera General Hospital as a villain for a very long time. And I used to watch General Hospital when I was in grad school. It's how when I was teaching and then I had to go to grad school, I had about 3 hours in between. So I'd watch really like mindless TV so I could zone out for a bit. Mm-hmm. So seeing him in something else was delightful. And then Mitch kills a guy.
Wow, Mitch kills a guy. Okay, I didn't think that's how it was going to go.
He was saving Garner, saving his best friend, but Mitch kills a guy. And then, Angie Harmon gets abducted, and the guy, Scotty Baldwin, is the guy from General Hospital. He's like, yo, I know you got my money. Give me my money. And her sister's like, I don't have the money. And they have concoct this whole plan to get her back, and that's why Mitch winds up killing someone. But at the end, she's caught. She has the money.
I never saw that one coming.
Yeah, right? Ever at all. And then she goes to prison. And then I realized, I'm thinking, Thin Blood, what a weird title. It's got to be a play on like blood is thicker than water, right? That's Thin Blood because they're so different. This is a deep show, guys. You guys should get on this with me.
I can't say that I can. I still said I would watch the chicken episode, so I have to get around to watching the chicken episode. I promised you I would watch that one. I will watch that one. I'm a man of my word.
I need to know, you know. And look, here's the thing. You don't like that chicken episode? This show is not for you. I'll still talk about it, but I will never ask you to watch another episode.
No, I think I mean, did you ask me? I thought I volunteered for this.
I think you did volunteer.
It's so absurd.
You're right.
I had to see this with my own eyes. All right. So are we done paying our penance to the Hoff?
We've unhassled the Hoff, man. David, Mr. Hasselhoff, if you ever watch, please, open invitation. Just pop on. Talk about whatever you want.
Yes, you're more than welcome to. We won't bring up certain things that we did in the past. That's behind us now.
I don't remember what you're talking about. All I know about Mr. Hasselhoff is Knight Rider and Baywatch and this wonderful Baywatch Night show I'm watching now. He is a beloved man in Germany.
Correct. And that's all we need to know. All right, so let's get on to CW because that's how we were going to kick off our comic book stuff portion of the show. So let's jump into Stargirl, season 2, episode 10. No, it was
Stargirl.
Yeah. So let me just grab the notes quick.
Yeah, it's going at a good pace too. I'm really like I went episode 10. I was like, wow, this season's going quick. I'm really enjoying the pacing of what they're doing.
Yeah, no, I'm digging it. I like the opening scene where I remember last week on the show. We discussed how the original JSA looks like a bunch of douchebags.
Yeah.
The way that they treated Pat. But this episode opens up with a scene that gives you kind of a completely different look at it, where Starman is like really, you find out a lot about Starman and Pat. Because Starman's pretty much saying, like, we knew each other when we were kids, and you kind of like basically led me to becoming Starman.
Yeah. It's a really nice scene to see, and he apologizes to him. Yeah. He actually says, look, I'm sorry for that. And I really appreciated that because I didn't like the way Starman treated him in that last episode, and as we discussed, and sort of as you're right now, I see it in a different light, and I don't really hold it against Starman as much.
Yeah, we get a lot more information. There's more fallout from Pat's secret, which that's continuing. We get the Shade's origin,
from
Dr. McNider, himself, who was in the Shadowland. I think that's the actual name. Yeah,
called it.
He's in the Shadowland, and that's where we get his entire origin story, which I thought was pretty cool.
I did too, and it makes sense. Like, I can see the evolution of that man to this character, the Shade.
Oh, okay. Actually, we have a new person jumping in here too, and I apologize there. Thanks, Roy, for joining us tonight. That moment when I watched the show yet, and the spoilers are going, and it says I'll cover my ears. Roy, thanks for tuning in. We appreciate it. Come back when you get a moment to watch the show. But yeah, we talk spoilers. That's what we do.
Yeah.
We spoil the crap out of it for the week. Everyone's had a little bit of time to check it out. But yeah, come back and check us out when you've had a chance to watch the episode.
Yeah, we certainly don't want to spoil it for anyone.
No.
So please, if you want to check us out later, or even come back 9:30, we're going to be talking about Sam Raimi's Spider-Man. I'm sure you've seen that. So
and if you haven't seen that, do yourself a favor, and I can't help you then. We're gonna.
Yeah.
Sorry, the movie is 19 years old. Wow, I can't believe that just happened. Yes,
that's why I didn't say that.
Yeah, it slipped. There it goes. Yeah, so we get that. So we pretty much the gist of it is we find out that the Shade was kind of like a con man and everything like that, and he was sent to it was like stealing the Black Diamond, and ended up getting his abilities like that, and it was through like a curse and everything. So that was pretty interesting to see. There was also cool Easter eggs in there where there was like newspaper clippings that they were going through. I think it was it Courtney that was going through the newspaper clippings?
Yeah.
But Green Arrow is named in it.
Oh, I didn't catch that.
Yeah, and so it says Green Arrow and Speedy, which leads you to believe, like they were Green Arrow was a thing then,
right?
And had like Speedy, his original sidekick, like in the comics.
Which makes sense because this is a Golden Age team.
Yeah, so I thought that was pretty cool as well.
That's awesome. I missed that. Good call.
Yeah, no, that was some cool stuff. So then they go ahead and try to find Green Lantern's daughter again, who kind of just vanished for quite a few episodes. And she's found in order to put the Black Diamond back together because the Black Diamond was destroyed. So what happens is the Shade essentially tells them to reassemble the Black Diamond, and that's how they would stop Eclipso. And we know that the Shade tricks the team into doing that.
Yeah,
pretty much to get his own abilities back. And then it summons Eclipso at the same time. So the Shade continuing his good, I'm good, I'm bad, I'm back and forth type thing. He hasn't done a bad thing in a while, so this was a pretty bad thing to do, though.
It's bad, but it's exactly what he said he would do in the beginning.
Yep. For his own good.
Yeah. He's not going to burn a village down just to watch it burn and see people die. He's not evil, but he's always going to look out for his own best interest. And in this moment, this was his best interest.
Yeah. No. And he's going with it.
Yep.
We get a little bit of Thunderbolt being back in the picture. So there was that whole candy house that was made and some of that for Pat's son. So yeah, I don't believe that had to do with Thunderbolt, another character that kind of just vanished for a little while.
Yeah, good call. There's a nice moment before we go too far where Solomon Grundy brings Our Man an apple in prison.
Yeah, I thought that was nice.
I thought that was just a really nice turnaround since Our Man was feeding him. And again, I really love that they're making Grundy a realistic, like a real character, and not just a brute and someone evil. Like, they've given him heart, and I really appreciate that. I've never seen this side of this character before.
No, me neither. And I think it's really cool what they're doing here. But at the end of the episode, Courtney is thrown into the Shadowland. So, and it goes, the whole screen turns black and white and everything like that. So she's like really in the mix. And I was like traumatized for a second. So I'm like, oh God, please don't tell me this is like Supergirl going into the Phantom Zone. We can't have this. The writers on this show are better. They're better. They know better.
To show you just how much I trust the writers on this show, I didn't even think that. Like, it didn't even dawn on me that they might be pulling a Supergirl on us, because I'm like, no, they're good.
Yeah, like, please, like, just don't do anything like that. We got another fan of a bunch of the pop culture pros chiming in here. Frank Turizzo. Frank, what's up? How's it going, Frank? Dude? Thanks for checking us out tonight. All right, so yeah, so we got we got a bunch of that.
Yeah,
anything
and
else?
then
You got anything for Stargirl?
did we say Cindy was alive?
Yeah, Cindy is alive. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
I did not mention Cindy being alive.
No, that's okay. I was thinking it, and then I didn't remember if you said it or not, because I was thinking it like, don't let Eddie forget this. Don't let Eddie forget this. And then I forgot if you said it.
Cindy's alive.
Cindy's alive.
She's not dead because she's not Uncle Ben, and she's not, Martha.
Parents.
Yeah, not Bruce Wayne's parents. So
she ain't clutching pearls on her deathbed in death in a crime alley, is what we're saying here.
Yeah, exactly. So, that's fine with that. All right, so let's move it on. Moving along. Supergirl, season 6, episode 15.
Supergirl. This was an episode of Supergirl, guys.
All right, that's it.
I mean, it wasn't terrible, but again, I'm just not crazy about this season. I'm really disappointed. That's how the show's going out. So we got a lot of stuff with Esme, who is a mimic, right? She mimics people's powers, which means someone around her was a fire spitter in that episode where she held people off. I'm kind of curious who that could have been. I don't know if they told us who it was, but it was just a question, like, who was the fire spitter then? Because it's in this episode we find out what her powers are.
Yeah.
So we find that out, and that whole storyline is she doesn't trust that David Bowie and Mick Jagger are going to keep her safe. Like, I just said Mick Jagger because it was David Bowie.
I love it. No, I love it. Let's just keep rolling with it, man.
So they're trying to make her at peace, and they have to tell her who Supergirl is because she'll mimic Kara's power without realizing it. So she gets in on the secret. And then they have a truth-telling fish. And the truth-telling fish has David Bowie and Mick Jagger tell Esme that they'll love her forever or something. That's her story. Then Nixley sees Supergirl as her dad. And I mean, there's that. Like, again, this episode is just kind of a mess. It's all over the place. I fell asleep in the middle of it. So that says something. I guess the big thing is that Nixley kidnaps the reporter, the guy who was cool in the last couple seasons, but hasn't really been doing much this season. He's
like a damsel in distress this season.
Yeah, he really is. So she kidnaps him and tells Supergirl's got to get the other totem, and then Supergirl gets the other totem. Then Lena Luthor uses her magical magic that she just magicked this season and puts a curse on it to hurt Nixley when she touches it. But Nixley's not an idiot, so Nixley almost kills the reporter anyway. And then, actually, in the coolest part of the episode, in my opinion, is the guy's going like, "Oh, you're talking about me like I'm already dead," and he drops to the floor and sweep kicks her. And I was like, that was kind of cool.
It was. I have a couple of weird knocks against this episode. Number one,
yeah, please jump in because that's pretty much it. That's and then so what? How do we end? Nixley.
Oh no, the ending is cool.
Oh no,
the ending is the coolest thing.
You do the ending because you actually were really excited about this.
Esme knows who Supergirl is immediately. That Supergirl is Kara immediately. She sees her immediately. Bang, Kara.
She mimics her powers, I guess.
Esme is the smartest person on the show.
Apparently. The things kids say,
So, Supergirl gets a bunch of nukes together, Russian nukes, and throws them at the sun. Jason, where have we seen this before?
I don't know. Could it be Superman 4?
The Quest for Peace. When you were mimicking, I'm going to bring him in because I know I can see him back here.
Oh, here we go.
Tim, you haven't watched Supergirl in a couple of years now, right?
2 seasons.
All right, so I'm going to just tell you right now I'm pretty sure you've heard how much we were hating this season, and it's been a chore to get through. It's finally Supergirl's having a really terrible season. Dude, she gets a bunch of nukes and throws them into the sun. You're borrowing strategies from Superman 4, The Quest for Peace.
Oh, what else are you supposed to do when you get a bunch of nukes? You throw them into the sun.
Yeah, that's the only thing. How about you just don't get a bunch of nukes and we just scrap that storyline altogether?
Right.
You know what they didn't borrow from Superman 4 though? John Cryer. Where is John Cryer this season?
Oh, but the ending of the episode, Jason.
You're right.
So there is a suit that is sent to Nixley
You're
at
right.
the end with a note from her secret admirer. And just tell him by the wording that's there and the look of the suit, that is definitely the Lexo suit in different colors. So I think we're about to get John Cryer's Lex Luthor jumping in this to save the end of the season.
And hopefully it does. I'm really, because I want it to go out strong, guys. You have no idea how much I want this to go out strong.
Yeah, I really, really hope so too. But yeah, when you're borrowing shit from Superman 4, things aren't going. No. Just not at all. All right, well, we got some season premieres though this past Wednesday.
We did.
What do
we talk first? Legends. Yes.
Wait, real quick, fellas.
What's up?
I just wanted to pop in real quick to keep my streak alive because I've been on every show for 2 straight weeks.
Wow, dude, we have Titans to go later.
I know, but right now I have a pounding headache. I want to lay down, but I want to pop in and keep the streak alive. If my meds kick in the next half hour, 40 minutes, whatever, I will come back in for probably Titans and Spider-Man.
I was about to say Titans and Spider-Man that's right up your alley, dude.
I always want to talk about my one major problem with Spider-Man, so hopefully I can just one major problem.
I remember what it is. Too.
You know exactly.
I literally remember what it is since we saw the movie together in the theater.
Exactly.
I don't, but I think I know Tim's taste well enough that I could guess, and I will tell you if I am correct when you say it.
I said I'll be watching.
If you make it back.
If I'm still conscious, I'll pop back on. But right now, I just want to smash my face into a nice cold pillow.
All right. Well, thanks.
The streak, the streak is alive.
Lives. The streak lives.
All right, guys.
That was your Superman 4 moment, brought to you by Tim.
It was. That's right.
Okay.
Superman 4 is the worst thing that ever happened, probably to America.
Wow.
That's a bold statement.
That is a very bold statement. We can't wait to have you on when we talk about Superman 4 one day because you know it's going to happen.
It's going to have to.
No, you have to get Grogan on for that.
Oh, 100%.
Oh, yeah, 100%. Absolutely.
That's a guarantee.
He's the only person in the world that will defend that movie. So,
and look, we need someone to defend it.
Somebody has to.
There's no defending that movie. By the way, I don't know if you guys seen it because it's on TikTok. They've been posting all the deleted scenes and all the cut scenes and all the ridiculous scenes and all what Nuclear Man was supposed to look like a goblin.
Yeah, no, I saw that. I've seen some of the footage from the deleted stuff.
It is terrible. It's like, wow, actually, this movie could have actually been worse. How? I don't know. But yeah, fellas, do your stuff. I said, I'll see how I feel in about a half hour. So
here we go.
Hopefully I can pop back in.
Grogan, thanks for watching. Because
thanks, Grogan.
Well, you just mentioned Superman 4, and you'll find out if Grogan's watching.
He wasn't watching. He wasn't watching. He got like an alert. He got an alert on his phone. Someone just fucking said Superman 4 somewhere.
That's right. That's an app that Grogan created just for himself that he tried to sell it. No one else wants it. And it's literally anytime anyone on the internet mentions Superman 4, it gives you an alert in real time.
Or Nuclear Man.
Or Nuclear Man.
I'm in. He's in. Yeah. Grogan, you gotta get on the show for Superman 4. So
yeah, you're invited, my friend.
Dude, he felt
the disturbance in the Superman 4 force.
All right, fellas, I'll check back in a little while.
All right, feel better, Tim.
Tim, feel better.
All right, so let's go. Let's talk about Legends.
Legends is back, and I'm gonna say this was a fun episode. I really enjoyed it. I miss Mick. I miss Constantine. Their absences were felt in this episode. But I think this was a really fun episode. The gang is stuck in the 1920s. How can I not love this episode? The 1920s is literally the place I'd time travel to if I was able to time travel. I would go and have drinks with F. Scott Fitzgerald and make passes at Zelda and probably get into a bar fight with Ernest Hemingway. That's how much I love the 20s. And now the Legends are there.
Yep.
So, and they're stuck there.
While, I was like.
Yeah, no, they're stuck there because the Wave Rider's been destroyed by another Wave Rider? Question mark. We'll see.
Yeah.
And so this whole episode is about them figuring out their next moves. And part of that is to find pretty much an indestructible black box with supplies that was in the Wave Rider. And this sheriff winds up getting it. And one of the funniest line in the episode, in my opinion, is Sarah Lance going to I always forget the guy's name. Steel. It's time to use your superpower. He's like, oh, and she goes, no, your other superpower.
Yeah.
You're a white man in the 1920s.
I thought that was phenomenal. I was laughing out loud.
It's great. And Nate, that's his name. Nate just goes, yeah, like, yeah, all right, you're right.
No, why not?
And so he has this fun thing about it where, and I always forget that he's like a super smart history PhD.
Yeah, they only drop it in once in a while.
Once in a while, but like when they do, and this happened, like, you know, American history is his thing. I remember from the Kennedy episode. Mm-hmm. So he pretends to be J. Edgar Hoover to get the black box. The black box has nothing in it, but a manual from the Time Bureau, Bayrod's secret stash of gummies, and an IOU supplies from Mitch Rory from Rory, who went out to get beer at some point.
Yeah.
And so, but J. Edgar Hoover is in town because the sheriff realizes that Mitch isn't J. Edgar Hoover, calls the FBI. Hoover comes. I actually really like the actor who played Hoover. He was cool. And so he starts poking around. The legends have to pretend they're a circus, which kind of goes nowhere. They drop that really quickly.
I thought that was actually kind of smart because of the way they explained it. When they said it was like, well, in the Time Bureau, it was like, you need to pretend if the jig is up and everyone's got you, pretend you're a circus because people will just accept weirdness from a circus.
Yes.
So your time travel thing's not busted. And I'm like, oh, it's actually not bad. I mean,
it made sense. That was Rule 42, right? Or was it Rule 40?
Yeah, somewhere in 42.
Yeah.
Somewhere in the 40s.
I knew I should have written it down.
Yeah, it's all right.
But yeah, so I love the fact that they pretend they're going to be in a circus, and then like Gary says the circus is tonight at our house, and he invites everyone. But then my thing is it kind of gets derailed with the J. Edgar Hoover stuff, and then it becomes like a different episode, which I also enjoyed, where they all they leave Astra, who is hurt because she tried to use her magic to put the Wave Rider back, Spooner, who's with her mom, and her mom. Those are the three. So we have pretty much Sarah and Gary and Agent Sharp and Steele, and I think that's it. And they are going cross country to New York to now find a guy who theoretically invented time travel in the 20s. Like,
I'm going to tell you right now, that's going to be Matt Ryan's new character.
Yes. Oh, yeah. You're right. I didn't even think
I'm calling it right now. That's going to be Ryan's new character.
Yeah.
Because he's going to be on the show playing a new character, not John Constantine. That's who it's going to be.
You're absolutely right.
I'd be shocked if it wasn't.
I would be too, now that you mentioned it. So what else am I missing? Okay, so they open a pocket dimension to hell. That's important.
Yeah, because Constantine gave her Zari the key, and that's where they go. So she can escape to this little pocket dimension in hell, which I thought was pretty cool. And the big thing at the end,
yes,
they killed J. Edgar Hoover.
J. Edgar Hoover T2s them, apparently. Like, so Steele is driving, and he is Steele, and they have a roadblock up, and Hoover and his guy's shooting a Tommy gun into the car, and Hoover's shooting a pistol, and of course it's just bouncing off of him, and he just plows through them. They jump to the side, and then all of a sudden you start hearing banging on the roof, and they look up, and Hoover's up there. So I'm just assuming he did like a T-2000 thing. You know?
I can picture that.
And then they stop, and he goes flying off the car, and like with his last breath, he pulls his gun, and he goes, "I never miss twice," and he shoots Nate in the head, and Nate turns to Steele, and it ricochets and kills J. Edgar Hoover, and then it breaks Sharp.
Yeah.
Who just goes, I've been reading true crime my entire life. This is my time to shine. Gary, eat J. Edgar Hoover. And I'm like, what is happening?
Dispose of the body.
And she keeps saying, you got to dispose of the body. No, I know where to dispose of that body. Eat that body.
I thought the episode was a lot of fun. And remember, we talked about it where I was like, so on the end of last season, which feels like it was last week, by the way.
Yeah, well, essentially, it was like less than a month ago.
Yeah, it really wasn't that long ago, but I'm not complaining because my guess is that a lot of these shows on broadcast TV are going to try to get their shows back on track. Like all the CW shows usually come back in the fall. they take their Christmas break, then they come back for the second half of the season, and they wrap up in the spring, and then they're off all summer. So my guess is they're trying to get it back on track now. So we'll have that. We'll have a true break from the CW verse, like completely probably. I think the Stargirl is a summer show. I think that's their only summer show.
Okay.
So that's what I'm guessing, is that's why they were able to bring this back so quickly. Yeah, and I think Sharp also mentioning that throughout the entire episode, small footsteps. You know, because they kind of reminded us of something from time travel on this show by their own rules that they haven't mentioned in a while, because shit's gone so crazy and batshit nuts for a while that you can't start just doing whatever the hell you want in the past and it's not going to affect the timeline.
Yeah.
They kind of got back to that in this episode, and I appreciated that. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, I did too. I love, by the way, that they robbed the bank for $93.07 or something,
which is exactly enough to get them to New York.
Exactly. And she's like that, and she says that like, well, you said little steps. And she's writing her IOU book. Like, I love that character, and I think that actress brings so much to that role.
Yeah, no, she's really good. I like the fact that the show, I'm not complaining that they went to aliens and magic for a while and things like that in different seasons. But I kind of like the fact where we'll see where it goes, but I appreciate that they're bringing it back to time travel.
Me too.
Like that's what Legends of Tomorrow is supposed to be about. But I get it. You got to change it up a couple of seasons because you can't do it every single year.
Right. And look, you needed the magic season to bring Constantine in, because I remember that season. That's exactly why he comes.
Yeah.
The space season, it was
fine.
it was fine. It was probably the weakest season, but it was fine. Yeah. But yeah, I'm with you. I'm glad that they're back to time travel. I'm kind of excited to see them stuck in one era for a little bit. I hope it's not the whole season, but
yeah,
I think
too.
it's kind of cool that they're going to spend some time in this era and do some things. And yeah. I mean, but as always, I'm along for the ride. This is a fun show, and kind of whatever they give us, I usually enjoy.
Yeah, and I agree. I like the fact that they're stuck in a certain time. They don't have a time machine because they've tried everything in this episode.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
To try to get to jump time again. But now it's like, all right, we're going to do time travel. You're stuck in a period, and you're going to be stuck there for a little while. And that's not something they've ever done in this show.
No,
that would be new.
And I respect this show a lot, because every year it tries something new. It doesn't always succeed.
Yeah.
But every year it tries something new, and you have to respect that, because at least it's still trying. It's not it's not just going, okay, well, we're in our, what is it, 6th season, 7th season?
7.
We're in our 7th season. Let's just, who cares? Let's just give them whatever. Let's Supergirl it. Like, which is pretty much what I feel Supergirl is doing this season. Or the Flash did last season, right? So like, it's still trying. It's still trying to reinvent itself. And whether this works out or not, I respect that it's trying something new in its 7th season.
Yeah, I agree. All right, well, let's get into other things that are trying something new, at least that in my opinion, at least. Batwoman, Season 3, Episode 1. Guess what, ladies and gentlemen? I don't think we're here to bash Batwoman this time.
No,
I think it's time for some props.
I have good things to say. I have actually mostly good things to say. I don't think I have many dings for this episode.
No, I'm going to tell you the truth. I really don't. And one of the reasons that might be why they kind of have us in now, and I think they had us in at the end of last season too. I felt there was a bit of a tonal shift, which I was reading an article about, and I think that the writers were talking about that they're going to try a tonal shift this season. The episode picks up with Batwoman and Batwing, since he hasn't on the show, he doesn't officially have the title, but we know he is.
Right.
They're chasing down the Batman trophies, Bruce's Batman trophies from the last season that got spread out all over. There was little Poison Ivy. There was, little stuff from the Mad Hatter, stuff you haven't seen. We saw penguin umbrellas down the river and stuff like that. So they're chasing them down because they're going to be, they falling into the wrong hands. They could be pretty dangerous. This episode introduces a lot of stuff. We get a Renee Montoya.
Yeah, which I was all in for. I love that character from the animated series.
Yeah, so she's introduced now. I know it's the same actress that played her on Gotham, from what I had read, because somebody tapped out on Gotham after season 1.
Yeah, me too.
But they're not. They've been very clear in many articles that it is not a continuation. Totally new.
Yeah, she's just good in the role.
Yeah, exactly. which is rare that you ever see that carried over, but it's fine because guess what? People probably want to forget Gotham anyway. So.
Yeah, and look, I didn't know she was on Gotham until you just said it, and I don't care because I actually really liked her performance in this. I thought she was a perfect choice for this character, so it makes sense to me that someone saw her do this character and went, "That's who we're getting to do this character again."
Yeah, I like it.
It's like J. Jonah Jameson in Spider-Man.
Yep, I agree. So she's on the case. Pretty much her whole thing now is to help them get tracked down because they keep saying, by the way, that it was like 20 years ago when a lot of Batman stuff happened.
Yeah, I'm not sure about the timing because Batman looks like he's in his 30s. Like the guy who was done up as Batman, maybe like at pushing it early 40s.
Well, remember though, Alfred's dead in the CW universe. Lucius Fox is dead. He's already had time with them. A lot of the criminals kind of seem like they've aged out a little bit. So I don't know, but I agree that the look of the actual Bruce Wayne is what throws me off with that.
That's it. Like when you see that actor, he looks like he's 30, 35. You mean to tell me he was doing this when he was 15? Get the frick out of here, you know? Yeah. But
that's
like
Gotham stuff.
You're right, exactly. But like, if you ignore the fact that we saw what he looked like, and they have an actor playing him, and he doesn't look old enough to be in, like, you know, pretty much a Ben Affleck Batman is what they're trying to paint us to have, right? Like,
and
Batman
the way
at the
they've
end of
talked
his
about
career.
him. Yeah, and that's how they've talked about him a lot. So I think that's the only thing that doesn't sync up with that. But we thought we were both under the impression we were getting like the Mad Hatter.
Yes.
But we find out it's just someone who's mimicking the Mad Hatter because he's pretty much an Alice-obsessed fan that comes across and he buys it on eBay, essentially.
Which I liked.
Which I thought was cool because people were like, hey, they're finding these things and selling them on eBay. Screw it.
Right.
Let's go ahead. People are going to want this shit. He gets a hold of the hat and then, you know, he starts going crazy because he was an Alice super fan and his whole thing is to almost like impress Alice and writes her letters as if he's Papa Crow. I'll use the term.
Papa Crow.
Because we know Papa Crow's done.
Yeah, he's not coming back.
Yeah, but Alice is... Yeah, no, I agree. There's no need for him anymore.
Yeah.
But Alice is convinced that is Papa Crow writing to her, but it really is the Alice superfan posing as the new Mad Hatter.
Right.
And his whole thing is to correct the medical system, essentially.
Which I liked. Like there's that scene in the when he first uses his powers. And I'll talk about when we get to the end, I'll talk about my overall thoughts on the Mad Hatter, this version of the Mad Hatter. Mm-hmm. But when he first realizes he gets his powers and he starts making them say, Alice is just a victim of a terrible like medical system or whatever. Yeah. I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. Like, so
I thought it was cool. I thought it was clever.
Yeah, I thought it was clever too. Like, I actually no. So if you don't mind, I'll talk about my thoughts about the Mad Hatter.
No, go with it. Talk about it. Let's go.
I went through it up and down. So I liked the look of him, but I wasn't sure what was going on with him buying the hat. And to be honest, I was watching my son too, so it wasn't I couldn't watch this one as closely as I watched Legends. Mm-hmm. But so I was watching it. I'm like, oh, he gets the hat, and I'm like, oh wait. So and then I found he was an Alice sycophant, and I'm like, oh wait, are they changing his origin? But as soon as they said, yeah, he's not Jervis Tetch. Jervis Tetch was this. This is the comic book accurate thing. I went, okay, love the take actually. Like, and I did. He's kind of like a dandy obsessed with Alice, you know. And there are people who get obsessed with insane criminals, right? Yeah. And so this is what it looks like in the Gotham world. I bought that he got the hat because he seems like the kind of guy who would buy a hat on eBay that looked like that. Mm-hmm. The only thing I think they could have done better with that is I think the way he gets his powers seems too convenient. Like I think there needed to be, I don't know, maybe just something else. But now I'm nitpicking because the fact was this was a good episode and I can just kind of go, hey, if they tweak this, this, and this, it would have been better. But overall, I really dug where they went with this, with the Mad Hatter, and I'm really, really happy. I thought the Mad Hatter was going to be like a seasonal arc thing, but the seasonal arc they're setting us up for kind of makes me more excited than that did.
Exactly, and that's what I was going to get to in a minute. So the scene I thought that was pretty bonkers, though, is not in a bad way. It was actually pretty. It was crazy that the Mad Hatter, this new Mad Hatter, essentially has med student.
Yeah, I forget her. I'm terrible with everyone's names, but it's Papa Crow's stepdaughter.
She's graduating from medical school. Pretty much has her go ahead and start operating on her professor.
Yeah.
Right? And starts pretty much taking him apart little by little to kill him slowly. Yeah. That's pretty insane.
That was insane. And I got to admit that the way they did the pacing for that scene was so good.
Yeah, it really
because she goes up there and you could tell something's wrong, right? And then she starts talking and she doesn't go full crazy yet. Like, it sounds like, oh, okay, what is this? This isn't her speech, and then it goes crazier and crazier and crazier, and at some point you just realize, oh, wait, right, he's talking through her. But I just thought it was done very well, because it's not like she came out and went, crazy, crazy, crazy.
No.
Like, I didn't realize that he was talking through her at first. I should have, because I saw that he accosted her in the last scene, but as I said, I wasn't really paying as much attention as I should have. But again, the pacing I thought really worked on that.
Yeah, so they figure the only way to stop, to save this dude before he dies, because he's having his insides ripped out piece by piece in front of an entire audience, by the way, who is all like mind warped by the Mad Hatter, is to get the one person he'll listen to, and that's Alice, who's in custody, and Batwoman ends up going ahead and breaking her out of custody just to stop him. And I thought that was actually pretty awesome. And so Alice stops him, right, from doing that, essentially stabbing him and not killing him, because she does say he's not dead at
she does.
Stabs him with like the switchblade.
It's like a pen. Yeah, oh yeah. Is it her switchblade? Because it's like
it was.
Okay, but yeah, it wasn't a fatal thing, and he kind of goes, "Oh, you are as bad as they say you are."
So the other two things that we're dealing with in the episode is Ryan is trying to move on from the knowledge at the end, last season's finale, that Alice drops on her a bomb at the end where it's like, oh, your mother's still alive. Your birth mother never died. They haven't disclosed how she has this information just yet, but we find out in this episode it's true. Yeah. Like, through some digging, they find out that her mother did not die at birth, and her mother is Robin Givens, who we knew was joining the cast, but that's who it's going to be. And she seems to be like an entrepreneur, like a wealthy person and stuff like that. So, but we don't get to see a lot of her. It's a very small scene at the end. But the ending scene, though, is Montoya pretty much flipping the bat signal. Batwoman shows up, and Alice is there. And is like, listen, I need help cracking down, getting these trophies together. This is my thing. I have Alice pretty much on a work release, like assigned to you to pretty much be your partner, because we need Crazy to try to kind of catch Crazy over here, and that's what she goes with. And I think that's an interesting storyline to set up for the season. Yeah, because it also leads up to something that me and you were, I think, why the hook that got us in now, and I think it's a smart move of the show, is we're going to end up seeing a lot of Batman villains, and it's going to start feeling a little bit more like Gotham City as we're familiar with it.
Yes. But also I do like the fact that these are not going to be the exact villains. They're going to be copycats. They're going to be people who have come across some form of technology that gives them a boost. You know what I'm saying? And lets them sort of mimic the villain. And I think that's the right way to go, because it frees them up to kind of do whatever they want and not piss off the fans. Right?
I agree.
Because as a fan, I was pissed off when I thought this was Jervis Tetch. And the second they told me it wasn't, that's fine.
It's good with it.
Yeah. So I think they're going the right way. And also I think it fixes a major problem you and I had with the show last season, was it had nowhere to go. It had no aim. It had no direction. It was just Kate Kane. And then you get to that and who cares? And it only started to pick up when the Black Mask shows up, which is when we start getting sort of a story arc. But to set us up this season with, okay, the story arc is you are going to have to work with the person you hate the most in the world, who's also a villain and will stab you in the back. Literally. Or I'll put you in prison because I know who you are, because that's how she gets Robin to agree to this.
Yeah.
That's her name, right? Robin?
No, Ryan.
Ryan. I was Robin Givens, I was thinking. Okay. And then pretty much it's like, okay, so every episode they're going to be hunting one of these artifacts, which I think is a cool hook. It's a cool way to explore. You can do episodic stories under the spectrum of this hook. Yeah. And I think this was a good choice for the show.
Yeah, I thought there was some cool name drops. We do get a very quick Kate Kane name drop, but it's kind of rushed aside, which is fine. No, it wasn't heavy-handed or anything like that. Montoya also mentions, like, you know, she's pleading with the new mayor, or is it the commissioner? Like, oh, it's the commissioner. Like, man, if we don't stop this quick, this is gonna start looking like Jim Gordon's Gotham, essentially. Well, I'm like, wow, like to me, it felt like, oh shit, we're gonna get like Gotham is gonna be like Gotham now.
Right,
and
right. And
I was excited about it.
And that's the thing. We got the GCPD back now, like as the GCPD as we know it, not like weird racist Irish cops, like which is kind of what they were portraying the GCPD as last season.
Yeah, it was goofy.
It was really weird, and the crows are gone, and that makes sense. So I think the structural changes they've made to the show, I think, look, I have good feelings about this season. I'm looking forward to seeing where it goes. Mm-hmm. I'm kind of hoping? I'm kind of hoping that they explore all these different new versions of villains, but Poison Ivy, which is the one they're building up to, I hope that's going to be the OG Poison Ivy.
I hope so too. I agree with you. I know this week because we're getting a Killer Croc.
Oh,
I know we're getting that, and they've had pictures. If you check our Granny's Peach Tea Facebook group, I did post an article that was showing a picture of him. He looks better than the Suicide Squad Killer Croc. Yeah. He actually looks pretty good.
All right, I'm excited. Again, the only thing I can ding this episode for is this: Batman wouldn't have needed to break Alice out.
Agreed.
To stop that.
But I think it's fine to say that she seems more confident being Batwoman now. But again, like to have her accomplish things that a seasoned Batman was able to accomplish already in such a short time, that wouldn't have worked for me. That was
I agree with you.
Reaching.
And that's the thing is, I watched this because my note to myself was, do they really need Alice to stop the Hatter? Like, really? Because I don't think they did. But they are not Batman, right? She was not trained by Batman. Like, you know, she never met Batman. She's kind of doing this on her own. She just has the suit. And I can see her thinking that that's the only way. And so I guess it's not even a ding. It's just Batman could have done it better, but Batman could do anything better than anyone. Batman could teach my English class better than I can. All right. And for me to say that's saying a lot.
This is true. So I want, before we move on, there's one thing I wanted to mention. I'm going to throw out a theory that just popped into my head while I was watching the episode. And I want to get your thoughts on it. I promise you this was not read anywhere or anything like that.
Okay.
They mentioned Ryan's father was never, like, is being hidden. Like, it's almost a secret. Mm-hmm. Okay? And we see that her mother seems to be an entrepreneur type, like, you know, businesswoman and everything. And I think they still have this overall thing where you need to address Bruce Wayne's disappearance overall, which still has not been addressed, and I don't know how much we're ever going to get of it. And the other thing is, we have to address why the heck Wayne Enterprises is still going on and Bruce Wayne is just vanished.
Yeah.
I am going to say this right now. I'm going to throw it out there as a random guess that hit me.
Oh, I see.
They're going to say, they're going to say Ryan's father is Bruce Wayne.
Yep, I knew that's where you were going with this.
Do you think it's a complete? I know it's wild. No pun intended.
You know what? Let me see the tone of this season as we get a couple of episodes in, and then I'll weigh in on that in a couple of episodes. Because last season, I'd have been like, oh yeah, fucking absolutely. Bruce Wayne's her father. Alfred is part of their, like, anything could have happened last season. But this episode, and as you said before, was tonally consistent, which the episodes last season were not. So if that continues in this tone, then I don't know if this tone would go for that. Like, because that's kind of cheesy. That, like,
you think it's completely cheesy though? Because
I think it's kind of cheesy. Like, this random person who gets the bat suit accidentally because she was homeless and Kate Kane is gone. Oh yeah, you're Batman's son, a daughter. It's like that would have been that'd be too reaching for me.
I'll say this. I don't know how I feel about this. It popped into my head, and I was almost waiting for it to be mentioned in this episode. I could be completely wrong on this.
No,
I admit it's a little out there.
But the show in the past I think would go there. I just don't know if it's willing to go there still.
I think it addresses a couple of issues though. It addresses the Wayne Enterprises issue and why is no one questioning why Ryan Wilder and other people are in Wayne Enterprises.
Well, I think they did address that. That's now I forget his real name, but
Luke Fox. Luke Fox inherited all of this.
No, but Luke Fox is still employed by the how I read it from that character and the little I saw the first season is that Luke Fox is still employed there. And his job is to make sure people don't fuck with the Batcave. Like Bruce Wayne left him.
No, that I got from him. But I just the overall thing.
Yeah, I mean, like the fact that everyone's coming and going and everything, I get that. But like, I think that it's easily explained by like a couple pieces of dialogue. Like, Bruce was paranoid. I was the only one he trusted, so I'm the only one who can get up here. Something like that. Like, but. It would also it is a way to address that. It is a way to address how this is still going on, and because they don't. I mean, we can assume that there are other people who are running the corporation, but then, as you say, why do they have all this unlimited access?
Yeah, it was just a wild thought. Listen, it could be way off. We can find out her father is nobody of comic book importance, and it's okay. It's fine. Maybe we'll never get a name, and this is just me throwing it out in the wind.
Maybe we'll find out it's no one of comic book importance, and then we'll find out it's Emperor Palpatine.
Or Mephisto.
Uh-oh,
I said the word.
No.
I said the word. Oh, boy. All right. On that note, let's move on from Batwoman here, because that's pretty much there's nothing to be said after that.
Oh, that's it. Mephisto ends us all.
Doom Patrol, Season 3, Episode 6.
Hey. What a great episode. I'm going to say that right now. I really enjoyed this episode. It's a Rita-centric episode, and I normally am not... I don't dislike that character. I just normally love that character, but I kind of love that character this episode. Mm-hmm. Starts off with her using the time machine, which it just dawned on me. You travel through time by digging through the earth? Question mark?
Listen, for Doom Patrol, whatever.
Whatever, Doom Patrol makes its own.
We had wear asses.
Right, exactly.
Ago, so
exactly.
Just roll with it.
It makes its own rules. But it starts with her traveling, and it's this beautiful shot where she starts crying, and the tears are flowing upwards because of the gravity or whatever her position. And she lands in 1917, and she has no memory. For whatever reason, her memory's erased.
Yeah.
And then she's taken to the Bureau of Normalcy, which is a big villain from the last couple of seasons, right? They're the people who were trying to kill the Street, right?
Yes, they're trying to kill Danny the Street, yeah.
Danny the Street, yeah. And so they take her and pretty much enslave her because she's a meta.
Yeah, that's what they do to metas, apparently.
Yeah, they make them they're second-class citizens who are forced to work in place. They're either sent to the front, wherever the hell that is, as weapons, or they're kept to just do menial labor. And she's taken, but then we see this weird, and we only see them this one part, but there's a gorilla chauffeur and a brain. A brain, and is it the brain? Is that what it's called?
No, the brain. It's the Brotherhood of Evil.
Oh yeah, the Brotherhood.
Remember, they mentioned them a couple of times. Yeah.
Yes, the Brotherhood of Evil. That's right. I forgot that we saw these guys before. So it's the Brotherhood of Evil, and they're taking sketches of the time machine, and the brain goes, I have an idea. Yeah, they're going to reverse engineer it. And just the banter, the short banter between these two, like, this will help me in my plans for world domination. And the chauffeur is like, our plans. Like, and it's a gorilla.
Yes. In a suit.
In a chauffeur suit.
Yes.
And I'm assuming we're going to find out exactly why the Legion of Evil or whatever put a hit on Rita Farr that happens in the second episode. I think we're going to find out why that happens through the course of this season.
Yeah.
All right. So then she runs in from Laura DeMille, who's the time traveler who brought the machine to her in the first place, and she works for the Bureau of Normalcy.
Yep.
And she is a recruiter who actually loves metas, and it is a meta, right?
Yeah, she's a shape-shifting meta.
Yeah, which you find out did we know this before? Did I just forget this?
No, that was just revealed.
Okay, because you find out when she walks up and changes herself, and I was like,
oh.
did I miss something?
Yeah.
So it's interesting that she and you see that Laura, when she comes to the future, she's looking to hunt down the Sisterhood of Dada. And in this time, in 1917, she's part of them. She starts it. She, her and the other metas in the place, live by these tenets and these rules, or these beliefs, rather. Cliff is more of an asshole than normal, and he gets addicted to pop-up ads.
Yes, he's constantly clicking on pop-up ads.
Yeah.
He has a girl with a camera that's on a camera that's keeping him company that he has to keep paying. And then essentially starts selling everyone's shit.
Yes.
Because someone's like, oh, they mentioned Cyborg and all his wacky roommates. He starts selling Cyborg sneakers and clothes and pictures of Rita Farr, headshots. It's crazy.
Cliff goes off a cliff for me, pun intended. I usually like Cliff. I was like, ooh, he's too much of an asshole for me.
The way he tells off Cyborg, when Cyborg goes to ask him for real life advice.
Right. That
heartfelt advice. Yeah, he's telling him basically fuck off. Go find someone who actually fucking cares.
He actually says that. Because he's like, what are you complaining about? You could bang anyone. And Cyborg's like, it's not about who you can bang. And Cliff's like, yeah, I said no superhero ever. So that and that's their conversation.
Yeah.
He's just a super asshole this episode.
Listen, at the heart of him, Cliff is an asshole.
He is.
He is an asshole.
I guess I just forget that, but he is because he's Brendan Fraser, and I have so much goodwill toward Brendan Fraser.
Which is why I love his casting in this. And hearing him curse the way he does because it's Brendan Fraser, I love it. It's so against character.
It's amazing. Yeah, it's amazing to see. And it's as you said, it's perfect casting.
Yeah.
All right. So let me jump ahead. So all right. I just want to mention this. So there's a whole bunch of metas that Rita becomes friends with, and one of them is a guy with a canary for a heart.
Yes.
Who can turn invisible. It's weird. It's the weirdest thing I've ever seen on this show, and that's saying something. He's like, yeah, when I was in whatever town, I traded my heart for a canary. And then he takes his shirt off, and you just see an empty chest cavity with a bird cage door, and he opens it, and a canary flies in.
Yep.
But it's Doom Patrol. You just go with it.
I love it. I love the weirdness of it.
I do too. I'm not complaining. These are all good things. They do a 1917 Vogue video to Poker Face, which I enjoyed.
Yes. That was almost going to be our song if we weren't doing Spider-Man this week.
I could see that. I could absolutely see that. We talked about and then Crazy Jane has, I think, a really cool storyline that has nothing to do with anyone else, where the actual personality, not the alters, the little girl goes up and buys sneakers and rides a bike, and Crazy Jane, the alter, is the one who lets her do it, and there are other alters who are pissed at her. And there's just a nice moment where she almost hits a stranger with her bike, and the guy stops, and Crazy Jane's like, no, don't talk to him. He's a stranger. Just keep going. And he's just like, oh, just be careful. All right, have a good day. And I don't know. I really kind of like that. I like the fact that they're exploring the personality, not the alters in this season.
I like that.
So I really enjoyed that. My question, Laura is a shapeshifter. Bendy, as they call Rita Farr in this one, starts a sit-in with all the other metas, which I thought was really cool, because every time one of the metas sits with the agents look at them and discuss, get up and move to another table. So they all start to sit at different tables, and then they start partying, and then the Japanese woman turns everyone's suits into clown outfits, and they just go batshit crazy, and they get in trouble for it. Cyborg wants synthetic skin. That's going to come in somewhere.
Yeah, he's
there's
questioning himself a lot.
Yeah, no, he is absolutely, and I just say it's going to come in somewhere because I think they're setting up to explore this later.
Yeah,
because there's not a lot of it here. There's a little bit. We get a little bit with Matt Bomer's son, who was hurt in the last episode, and find out he works for the Bureau of Normalcy. He does it despite his father, pretty much. And he has a great monologue. I forget in that bandage what a good actor Matt Bomer is, because he gives this great monologue about how, I was there in the beginning as your dad. You can't take that from me. I left to protect you, and maybe that wasn't the right thing to do, but I've forgiven myself, and if you can't forgive me, I understand, but then I need you to leave. Like, pretty much is the monologue. And I thought it's a really powerful monologue.
Yeah, his son's pretty pissed at him, but I feel he gets a lot of closure regarding his son then.
I do too, yeah, because that was something big that was last season too. And yeah, his son hates him. And again, I understand that. Like, he views his father abandoning him, his brother killed himself, his mother went insane. He blames his dad. I get that. So I think that's why that storyline interests me so much, because it's very believable. And then we end with Piffle Puffle on fire and Laura DeMille having three voices in her head sort of start giving her information. And I guess this is how the Sisterhood of Dada will become powerful or dangerous, or this is what's going to set her on her quest, I guess, that brings her through time.
That was current day.
Oh, that was current day? I thought that was...
I read it as it was current day. I mean, unless I'm wrong.
Oh, okay, maybe I mistook it then.
Because they hate her current day. They despise her in the current day.
They do, yeah. Okay. Oh, yeah, maybe. Okay, I mistook that then. I thought that was in the past, but then that's setting up. Then they're coming for her. They're definitely there's going to be some sort of altercation between them.
Yeah, curious to see how they get down with it. I want to know exactly what happened, because when we see them in this episode and pretty much the Sisterhood of Dada origin story, they're all like lovey-dovey and all happy and everything like that. Something pretty damn bad happens, because in episode 5, whenever she's mentioned, they get furious.
It's so angry, and then you see that she was friends with them and she was part of them. So yeah, I want to know what happens. I want to know where the disconnect happens, and because obviously she's hunting them for a reason, and they have a reason to hate her. And I'm kind of curious who's in the right, because I don't know yet.
No, it's pretty out there. All right, then let's jump into the other HBO Max show from DC. It's Titans Season 3, Episode 12. This is the episode right before we get to the finale next week. So,
oh no,
it's
almost over.
It's almost over. Titans is almost done.
That's so sad. I was really enjoying this.
No, I'm loving it, and I'm dying to see how the heck this is gonna wrap up. So in this episode, we pretty much get the cliffhanger from last week, where Nightwing is killed. Essentially, a bunch of bats show up, and Raven and Gar find Nightwing's dead body, and Gar starts turning into a bat, which I was like, is he gonna be like Man-Bat or something?
I thought that too.
He turned
he turned into a bat like that was his size for like a second or two, and then he turned into a bat. Small. But I looked at it and I was, oh my god, are they going Man-Bat? Because I kind of would have been in for it. I would have been in for it.
I kind of would have been, but I would assume that this Batman has probably faced Man-Bat already.
I'm sure. But like, look, if Man-Bat shows up on Titans, I'm in for it. I'm going on record to say it.
Absolutely. So then they take Nightwing's body to the Lazarus Pit that we know that they found, and they used, not him, but was used to bring Jason back to life after the Joker killed him. Quick funny thing I thought, though, when they show Gar again by the Lazarus Pit, his jeans. It's like the Hulk. Just magic jeans just show up. Otherwise, it's like naked, but it's like, whatever. I get why it's happening, but I always find that to be funny.
It's one of those things that you just have to hand wave. But you're right, it is funny. Like I was thinking about the Hulk. Like, how come he always has purple pants when he changes? Like, why do the pants change?
Same thing. Why the Lizard has the lab coat every single time? I guess I don't know.
No, but I'm going to argue that the Lizard decides to put that lab coat on every single time. Like, the Lizard makes a conscious. He turns to the Lizard and he goes, "Before I criminal, All right, now it's time for crime. You know what I mean? I that's what I think happens.
Now I know Tim's head's really hurting because he would have jumped on for Lizard because it drives him up the wall.
I was kind of baiting Tim there. I was hoping he'd come back.
Yeah. Well, so when we see Crane's in the Batcave, literally gone off the deep end now because he has his huge hook that he found, apparently, that he's dragging on like the blade that's there, and he's swinging that thing around the Batcave. And then Jason sees him and is like, listen, Nightwing's dead. And he's like, all right, great. What do you want, a cookie? And then, like, he literally tells him that.
Again,
tells him that.
I love this version of the Scarecrow so much. And yeah, he is going out of his mind.
Yeah, he's still got the slashes all over his face. But he tells Jason straight up, dude, my plan is to kill everyone.
Yeah.
Kill all of Gotham. He's not going to saving shit now. And then he attacks him. And Jason's like, all right, this dude's fucking nuts. Like, this is not what I thought it was.
I backed the wrong guy.
Yeah, I need to get out of here. And pretty much, like, ditches out then. He's like, all right, I got to go find out what's going on here. But then Crane's insanity continues because then we find out that he sends one of his lackeys in to screw with Barbara Gordon, who's in prison. And he's pretty much going through the security camera to talk shit to her. Tells her Nightwing's dead.
On a regular basis, apparently.
Yeah, like on a daily basis, he talks shit to Barbara Gordon in her cell.
Yeah, and I think it's insane. Like he got such a grip on the police department. I mean, look, it's Gotham, so I don't think it's out. It's not insane where it couldn't happen. I'm just like, wow, he got a far grip very quickly, and I guess like this is why he's so dangerous. They've been talking about why this Scarecrow is so dangerous for episodes. Like Batman only beat him with Oracle, you know? So this is it. This is why. This guy knows how to get shit done. And when he gets to a certain point, he goes nuts.
This may be crazier than he's ever been.
I agree. I
mean, so to the information that we have. We got a quick comment here. Let's jump in here. Our boy Roy Rodriguez in here. I wonder what Bruce's plot is and why he tried to commit suicide. We've been wondering that too for a little while. We haven't seen that followed up in a bit. We know Donna Troy saved him, and that was pretty much it. And I'm assuming we're going to see him in the finale next week. I mean, I hope so.
I hope so. I mean, he's been a big part of this season. He kind of has to be. Like, it won't feel right. I won't feel closure with this Jason Todd stuff as Red Hood unless there's a scene between him and Bruce. So I hope that pays off, Roy. I really do. I hope it pays off this next episode.
Yeah, so I love the scene, by the way, like during this whole scene where he's talking shit to Barbara Gordon. He goes in and cuts off the pizza guy's hand because that body's still there. And it's like, well, I lost my right-hand guy, but I got a guy. I got a right hand. So totally off the deep end, man.
Oh, my God. And again, this actor, I say it every week, but this actor is so good as a Scarecrow.
He's awesome.
I love him. And again, I've known him from other things, but this is now my favorite performance of his.
Yeah, he is the on-screen live-action Scarecrow, Jonathan Crane for me.
Me
so
too.
to follow up with that storyline, Barbara Gordon escapes from her cell later in the episode, beats the crap out of that dude who was like screwing with her previously, that I thought was great. Completely kicks his ass. And then towards the end of the episode, she tries to reactivate Oracle because she's like, all right, how the hell did Bruce stop him? This is what we need now.
Which I think it's going to come back online. Like, there's no way that there was a way to destroy Oracle for good.
I agree. Maybe that's where Bruce comes into play. I don't know. So another interesting storyline we get here. So when Dick Grayson is thrown into the Lazarus pit, which by the way, I love the visual, the way that they present the Lazarus pit.
Yeah, me too.
He goes through this whole mental journey in the Lazarus pit, and it is wild. A lot of it is pushed along by, I guess, some form in his mind of Scarecrow, kind of like pushing him along. But then there's a visual where, so this version of Jonathan Crane is talking shit to him, pretty much telling him, you were always jealous of Jason, you wanted him dead and all this other stuff. And he says a term where he's like, the Joker was pretty much just a weapon in your hand.
Yes.
He looks at himself. He is dressed as the Joker with the friggin' tire iron right there in his hand. and Jason is laying on the floor pleading for his life. He starts beating him to death.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty much as it happened. And that visual with the blood on his face and everything, I thought was tremendous.
Oh no, it was fantastic, and looking like him in the suit, and then him looking. There's when he sees finally what he's doing. He goes, "No, this is not what I want." I think the visuals are great on that, and I think the symbolism in this scene is amazing. Like because you've got Crane, who is the epitome of fear, right? And so he like it just in general, and he's representing Dick's like guilt and his fear that he did this to Jason. He blames himself for what happened. And part of it is because when the Scarecrow says to him, he took your place, he took your father, like, I think Dick has those feelings. Like not to the extent where he wants to kill Jason Todd, but he had those feelings. He was resentful that he lost the spot with Batman, even though he left, right? It's like when you become an adult and you leave home, you still, if you have a relationship with your parents, you still want to keep that relationship, but you also want your independence. And so like he's going through this, like he really does feel that he might be at fault with this, and that it might be his fault. And they go back to last season where Jason falls, and that whole thing with Deathstroke kind of is his fault. So he's blaming
death and everything else. Yeah, they really pile it on.
Right, exactly. And so that's why I think like the symbolism going in there, like I don't think that was really the Scarecrow in his brain. That was just his fear that he actually did.
A manifestation of
yes.
Like just a visual thing.
Right, exactly. And I think it was perfect.
Yeah, and Roy brings up a good point, just pretty much what we were discussing. It's crazy how you reflect on Dick's character from past season. Now Scarecrow kind of has a point. Yeah, no, he's not lying.
No.
But again, like Jason had said, not to the point like I want to beat him with a tire iron and kill him. But I'm sure a lot of those are there. And you can tell the way Dick reacts to that. He's kind of like, yeah, I guess. I mean, shit. Like, how the hell did you kind of know some of this stuff and things like that? And this is obviously all in Dick's mind, so that's pretty much why he's like pushing it forward. So it makes sense there. But then, like you said, he's like, this is not what I wanted. But then he has the thing where he confronts his father in the woods. And he kind of apologizes to him and says, I kind of lost myself and things of that nature. And then I think it transitions very interestingly to what could be Dick's daughter. And who's there, she's saying, dad and everything like that. He's smiling. He's very happy and stuff like that. Is that his daughter with like Starfire? Or something like along the lines? I don't know. I mean, it kind of seemed like that could be alluded to right there. But then it circles back around and he confronts Crane right there. And before he comes back to life, he essentially like just tells him like, this that version of Crane's like, listen, all I had to do, and again, this is truths that Dick knows. Excuse me. All I had to do to Jason was like, listen, let's go ahead and take care of that fear, and he was mine. It was that easy. Then Dick just goes at it. He's got to be stopped and punches his way, and then he punches through the Lazarus pit. He's back to life, which I thought was pretty cool.
Yeah, I thought that was awesome. That was a great transition of him coming from sort of the afterlife or whatever that place was back to life.
Yeah. And then he pretty much just tells Raven and Gar, assemble the Titans, like get them back together and everything like that. Like, let's go. I'm gonna go ahead and approach Jason and find out what the hell's going on here. So the other storyline that we see in this episode is Blackfire. So Blackfire, goes ahead. She needs a car. She's about to go take this dude's car, and then Crypto shows up, which I love the fact that Crypto still has lots of posters out for him.
It's fantastic,
and essentially leads Blackfire to where Connor was. Where Connor is right there. And she revives him and pretty much just tells him, hey, listen, fuck the Titans. We don't need them. We're outcasts and everything like that. They say that they're doing things.
Connor's pissed. Connor says, I don't know whether I want to punch Dick in the face for what he did to me or if I just want to forgive him because he's family. Like, he's pissed.
Yeah, no. He's really pissed because he even says, there's a part of me, which I'm assuming he was leaning towards the Lex part of him, because he always kind of talks about his feelings like that.
Yeah.
Like, Lex part in you, so you don't forget that it's the Superman part. There's a part of me that wants to destroy him for what he did to me. There's another part that says, no, family is more important and I need to do what I got to do. But he does literally say, fuck the Titans. I'm going to go off with her. We're going to be together. It compares it to like Hawk and Dove, even though Blackfire has no idea who they are.
Yeah,
no, don't worry about it. But you get the sentiment right there. But they go on a revenge tour to go find this doctor who's screwing with her. And it looks like they're going to go ahead and wipe this dude out. But then he offers, hey, your ship, I can give you your ship back. It's here. You can do what you want to do with it. And she's like, well, why the hell do I want to go back to Tamarin? And they're like, I don't care about that. Starfire shows up and tells her the truth that we found out in last episode, that Blackfire is the rightful queen and everything like that.
And I really love that scene because they've had an antagonistic relationship, and Starfire has looked at Blackfire, as we all have, as the villain. And now we realize that that's not really the case.
No. And
she realizes that, Starfire, and I love that she comes and Blackfire's like, what, you come to kill me? And she's like, no, I don't want to kill anyone, but we need to talk.
Yeah.
And they talk through it, and and there's unity there, and they come together as sisters, and I really enjoyed that. I thought that was a really nice moment for those characters.
Yeah, so then they try to get the ship to work again, and she tells Connor to help her. Connor's like, hold, time out, dude. I thought we were going to be together and all this other shit. What the hell happened to all of that? And she's like, no, that's her calling. She has to go ahead and do this. That, it's just something she has to do. Because Kryptonians, he mentions Kryptonians can't survive on Tamarin, so it's not like he can go with her. So they need him to help restart the ship. He starts building some shit. You can clearly see he sabotaged the thing and blew the damn thing up.
Yes.
He has that look on his face while it explodes. And that kind of thing is leaning into some Lex stuff that maybe he has in him, like, screw you.
Yeah, because he doesn't want to leave her.
No, he doesn't.
No, he doesn't want her to leave him. Like, he wants them to be together. So it's an interesting turn for this character. And I guess the next thing is they're going to explore his Lex side. And I think that's a good move.
Yeah, no, it's what makes Connor Kent like that interesting, is that he has that dynamic in him. So we see Donna Troy is pretty much still helping to like lead the rebellion against Crane and everything like that, and the corrupt GCPD. So she pretty much jacks a GCPD SWAT truck to help Tim Drake's family, and they're kind of trying to get out of the city. And they have a whole conversation where Tim is like, listen, I really want to be the next Robin. This is what I want to do. I want to save Gotham. I want to save the city. And everything like that. And they have a back and forth where she's like, listen, me and the Titans are, we've been at this shit for a while. You're not ready. I trained my whole life to do this, and like, you're not ready. Just trying to consistently tell him that just because you have this like secret room and shit like that doesn't mean that you're just ready yet. And he's convinced that like Dick or like Batman or Bruce would give him a shot and would take a chance with him. So I think he's making a case to join the Titans essentially, or just to be the next Robin at least. So we'll see where that goes. That kind of goes a little bit unresolved this episode. And then next time we see Dick Grayson, he finds Jason and is offering him redemption. Tells him you'll never be a member of the Titans again.
Oh, and that is my favorite line of this episode, when Jason like dismissively goes, and what? Then I'm a Titan again?
Yeah.
And Dick goes, you will never be a Titan again, but you can help me save the city. And it's just the matter-of-fact way it happens, and it's like, no, there are consequences, right? They're not going to kill Jason Todd. Jason Todd wasn't 100% in his mind to, he let himself be manipulated. He was, doing drugs, whatever. So they're not going to kill him. They don't. And Dick Grayson even said, like, Jason says, "Are you here to kill me again?" He goes, "No, I've seen how that feels. I didn't like it. I'm over it. I don't want to do that anymore." So like, even as a moment of like, not forgiveness, but like, he wanted to kill Jason Todd very, for a while, and now it's like, no, I don't want that anymore. But you can help me, and I think just the fact that, no, you're never going to be a Titan, but you can do the right thing. Other shows would have fallen into the trap of course, your family. Well, but no, he's gone too far, and you don't want to kill him anymore. But you can't trust him as a superhero. And I think the fact that they did that, they conveyed all of that in 3 lines.
Great,
beautiful,
great writing also, powerful scene. So Yeah, so they pretty much are like through that conversation that they talk about, and they find out where a lot of the stuff that Batman villains have had for a while. It's in the armory of the GCPD, including Creighton's fear toxin. So they go ahead and they're like, all right, we know where to find it. Let's go. They go to it, but then we find out the GCPD brought it to the Batcave to Crane. He recaptures it, and boom, episode over.
Yeah.
A lot leading up to this finale, man. A lot leading up to this finale.
Look, they're going to stick the landing. There's no way the show has been this consistently good this season. Like, this is my second favorite episode of Titans.
Yeah.
The first is the one where we find out the backstory of Jason Todd and Scarecrow.
That was phenomenal.
So the fact that 2 of my favorite Titans episodes are in season 3, there's no way they're not going to stick the landing on this. Like, I will be so look, and if they don't, I'll eat my words, but I will be so shocked if they don't like give us something really good next week.
Yeah, and Roy has another comment here, and this Bat family has unresolved drama, and how each member represents the other. They are older and more scornful. No, he's right, and that's
very
part of
true.
what the intrigue of this show is that we get to see all these. It's the different take on Teen Titans, as they've been portrayed before as adults, and an R-rated version of it. And you're right, the Bat family also featured in this show has gone through a lot of shit together.
Yeah.
And there's a lot to deal with, and it's like real adult stuff that you wouldn't cover a lot of cartoons and stuff like that. So and that's what hooks me into the show.
Yeah, me too. And I think we see what Roy said perfectly with the way Barbara Gordon is with Bruce Wayne. Like, she hates him. She blames him for her father's death. She wants nothing to do with him. But when she still has the phone, and when Bruce Wayne calls on that phone, she still shows up.
Yep.
And I think that's what the Bat family is going through right now, right? Like, yeah, we don't trust each other. We're scornful. Like Roy said, we got these issues. But when Bruce Wayne calls, we all come. And I think that's really an interesting dynamic.
So, do we think we're going to see Bruce Wayne back in the finale?
I'll be disappointed if we don't. So I do think we will. Again, we need him for the closure of the Jason Todd stuff. We had that great moment in Crime Alley where he pretty much says, like, you can be my son. You don't have to be Robin. We have a lot of great stuff with him in this season with Jason Todd. We have him killing the Joker, which needs to be resolved, right?
Yeah.
We have his suicide attempt that needs to be resolved. Like, it's a huge mistake if we don't see him in this episode, this next one coming up.
I agree. Or I know Tim, I mentioned last week, are we going to see Dick Don, the Batman? Is he going to become Batman?
We still might. I think he might.
Yeah.
Briefly. I don't think
on the table.
I don't think it's going to be like a forever thing. I think it might be I'm going to do it this one time because, we need to do it for reasons, whatever reasons they come up with. But, and they'll go back to being Nightwing next season. But I think it might happen. We might see him in the Batsuit.
So we're not going to see Batman forever is what you're saying?
No. No, we're not.
Oh boy!
That was because I made that Riddler comment before, right?
You just said forever. It's not going to be forever. So I had to go for it. It was there. It was the setup was there. Whether it was intentional or not, it was there.
Correct. Good point. And I would have gone for it too. You had to.
All right, so we'll see what happens there. Next week, unfortunately, it's going to be the finale. I mean, fortunately, on one hand, I'm excited to see it because it's probably going to be crazy and awesome. And the other, it just sucks that we're not going to have Titans for another year.
I know. And that's like, it's another year, man.
Yeah, it's probably going to be about a year. Or, I don't know. We'll see what happens because these other shows have been coming back a little bit sooner. So
right. I hope so. I hope so. Like, here's the thing. I really enjoy Doom Patrol. I can wait for Doom Patrol. After this season of Titans, I can wait. I'm going to have to, but I don't want to.
You have no choice. We got some more, another comment here before we move on from Roy. I hope Jason doesn't die. His character can be redeemed, not fully because he's always been an anti-hero, and then Tim can become the heart and Bat family needs. Roy, I'm 100% with you, my friend, because
me too.
I think that Jason doesn't die. He will continue on as Red Hood, as his own hero doing his own thing. He will not be a Titan because Nightwing pretty much smacked that shit down.
But I don't think he'll leave the show. I think
he'll be on the show.
Around.
Yeah, he'll be on the show, but and we'll see what he's up to. But I just don't think he will be an official Titan because I also don't think they're going to stay in Gotham past this. I think they're going to move on, and I think he'll be the hero, one of the heroes in Gotham. Oh, and then I'm curious to see what they do with Tim Drake though. If he becomes Nightwing's Robin, or if Bruce comes back and takes him under the wing and makes him a proper Robin. That's what I'm curious to see.
Yeah, I'm thinking it might be a combination of both. It might be like he comes back, Tim Drake becomes the official Robin, trains for a bit, and maybe in the next season we'll see we'll still be in Gotham with Tim Drake and Jason Todd and Bruce Wayne, and then eventually, like Jason Todd did actually in the first season, eventually he'll come and join the Titans and he'll be Robin to Nightwing. That's my theory.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of things to do. And again, they don't have to follow beat for beat every single little thing that happened in the comics. You can take liberties with it.
And look, I think this shows us that it's even better when they don't sometimes, because the Under the Red Hood comic is fine. I enjoy it, but I think it is all over the place. I think it's not the best written comic, and I think it ends so weirdly and gives us almost no resolution. And this is all it took from that was the Joker kills Jason Todd with a crowbar. Jason Todd becomes the Red Hood. That's the only similarities. And I think this is doing the story so much better. So, by adding the Scarecrow and adding all these other things. And again, we're getting a Titan version of this story. But I just think that you don't always have to follow the beat for beat. You can actually improve upon the comics. And I think this has done that.
Yeah, and if you want to see the Red Hood story, if you're not familiar with it, Batman Under the Red Hood, the animated DC movie, is awesome. I think it's really good. It's excellent.
It is actually better than the comic, in my opinion, because it fixes my biggest issue with the comic, which was how Jason Todd comes back to life. In the comic book, as I think I've said before, it's like a weird interdimensional god sneezes or something, and it throws off it pretty much throws off the rhythm of the universe and brings Jason back to life in his coffin, and he's got to claw his way out, and he runs off, and that's how he comes back. In the movie, in the cartoon movie that Ed's talking about, it's the Lazarus Pit. I don't know how the hell they didn't do the Lazarus Pit in the first place. It was there. The Lazarus Pit brings you back to life. You need someone brought back to life. You just throw them in the fucking Lazarus Pit. But the cartoon fixes the biggest problem with the comic for me.
Yeah. All right, so let's get to it. Let's get to our movie of the week as we begin our trip through I'm going to call it the live action Spider-Verse.
This is good stuff.
That's what it is. This is a big one though for me personally as well. Because Spider-Man's my guy, and I mean, behind me, my hat, my Spider-Man's Amazing Friends t-shirt here. Nice. I mean, we got Rocket. It's an old one. Spidey's my favorite character, man. This is my dude, so I'm pretty excited about this one. So we're gonna start it tonight, and we're gonna pick up Spider-Man 2, 3, and we'll go through the Amazing Spider-Man movies and Spider-Verse and everything like that.
And as a bonus, we're going to be watching some old Spider-Man cartoons as we go along. I know that we're not going to talk about them this time, but there is no way I'm not going to talk about the Spider-Woman, by the way. Before we start this movie, I got to tell you guys about the Spider-Woman just in a sentence that I watched. But we're going to be watching some old Spider-Man cartoons. And a student of mine who actually just turned on to the show loaned me a Spider-Man, the first 25 issues of The Amazing Spider-Man, which I found out Ed has as well. So we're going to be reading that at some point and talking about that when we have less content to cover. So this is going to be a Spider-Man bonanza for the next couple of weeks.
And this guy is super excited about it.
Oh, me too.
So let's get into it. We opened up the show with pretty much the single that went along with the film back in 2002. Hero, which is featured in the credits of the film. This is Tobey Maguire's first turn as Peter Parker and Spider-Man. We get Kirsten Dunst as Mary Jane Watson. William Dafoe is the Green Goblin. Spectacular. He is crazy William Dafoe, and it's beautiful.
He is so good.
And I guess we can start with the director, with the choice of Sam Raimi to be the director of a Spider-Man film. Before this, I mean, Jason and I are also horror fans, so we're familiar with his work from Evil Dead and Army of Darkness. I thought it was I remember back in the day when I first heard Sam Raimi was doing this, I was like, all right, that's an interesting choice. We'll see what happens. I think watching it now from this perspective as well, I think it works extremely well for this film and for the next film as well, because of the horror elements that I didn't really think were involved with the film.
It's so funny you bring that up because I rewatched this movie, and I rewatched it with my wife, who usually doesn't watch movies like this with me, but she's interested in this one. She's actually going to watch the next one with me too. And I turned to her at some point and I went, I forget that this is Sam Raimi until I realize this is shot like a horror movie. And we'll talk about it more in the episode 2, but this also has shot, like, he does shoot things like this like a horror movie. And I think that is just so cool because it's not what you expect in a movie like this.
Yeah, no, I agree. But before we get on, we have a guest who is
guest.
We have a special guest here who wanted to talk about the film with us. She's going to be joining Double O Deep Dive during the Jason's. And I will be appearing on Double O Deep Dive from time to time as well. But it will be Jason's vehicle to run over here. We have Guinea. What's up? Welcome to Dragon Speech City.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
No, you're good.
All right. Awesome. Yeah, excited. Thank you for having me. Thank you, guys. So good to see you.
It's great to see you.
Yeah.
And I'm excited to go dive into James Bond with you guys.
Me too. It is the season. November, December, January is very Bond for me. That's when you watch all of them. That's when they used to show them all the time. So it's a special time.
Me too, which is why I proposed to start it in the beginning of November. Yeah. Because in my head, November, that's when TNT starts the 5 days of Bond or whatever. Because when I was a kid, that's what they did, like Bond Thursdays or whatever.
Yeah, it was like Spike TV used to have it was a Thanksgiving marathon just for Bond, and then like New Year's would do Bond again too.
So it is the season to be.
Tis the season for Bond.
Yeah. So all right. So we just kicked off our discussion about Spider-Man. We were talking about the choice of Sam Raimi as the director of the film. And are you familiar with Evil Dead?
I
wasn't sure.
No, because it's 'tis the season for horror movies, and they're all on HBO Max. And I realized I hadn't watched the first one in like a few years, but I made a point to put it on during the day because it genuinely scares me because it is scary. It's so low budget, so weird and like gross that I was like, I just don't need that. It's very quiet. I'm like, I don't want that at night. So I just put it on during the day, and I was like watching that and just kind of like in awe and just really like appreciating it. But it is like, it's kind of not disturbing, but it's unsettling. So I definitely watched it during the day, the first one. So
that first Evil Dead movie. So my Evil Dead thing is I saw the second one first, and I loved it because it's a comedy horror. And then I saw the third one. Then I saw the first one, and I enjoyed it, but it's very different. It's so low budget. It's kind of like watching like a horror movie snuff film,
Yeah. Kind of like the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Yeah.
I feel about that as well.
Exactly.
And Halloween, and not as much the original Nightmare on Elm Street, but
I would say Halloween is a bit more polished. Like Halloween, it's not. I don't think Halloween's low budget. I think Halloween is just sort of bare bones, which what makes it so scary. But I wouldn't say it's low budget.
Well, I mean, literally it was, but I know what you're saying. I know what you mean. They don't go for the
quality of it.
The quality of it. But they don't go for the gore, which doesn't expose the budget as much.
That's exactly it. That's it. Like they know how to be a low budget movie that looks like it's not a low budget movie.
Yeah,
exactly. Which it sounds like we actually could probably do a pretty cool horror movie show with the three of us right now.
We absolutely could. We absolutely could.
We probably could.
Absolutely.
The only person outside of you that has probably seen more bad horror movies than me is this person right here.
write a thesis on Full Moon,
Yeah.
Full Moon Pictures Entertainment.
Oh, that's the Francisco Rivera special and Rick
Yeah.
Cedras, by the
Oh,
way.
Yeah,
Now, that would be a certain thing. He used to have them on VHS, Francisco. He would
friends
own
of
them.
ours, yeah. Friend of ours
Yes,
from high
it's
school.
wild.
You have to.
It's out.
Yeah, I got mine from cable. I would stay
Oh,
up
wow.
all night on USA with Gilbert
Right.
Godfrey.
Yeah.
Wow, you did it.
And what was I don't remember her name, but that I was quoting her. I don't remember her name though.
The blonde one, right?
Yeah, was it Rhonda something?
Rhonda. Well, man, I don't remember her last name, but I know
Rhonda
she's a
something
pretty
all
blonde.
night. Yeah.
Yes.
She was on Friday. Gilbert Godfrey was on Saturday. I enjoyed both of them for
What a
different
pair.
reasons.
So again, so how do you feel about the choice of Sam Raimi to direct a Spider-Man film?
Me personally, that in hindsight, it's because it was James Cameron was going to do it for a while in the 90s. That was like when you later you do the research, or just you find out later. But because I watched Spider-Man before I watched any of Sam Raimi's stuff, and so it just didn't seem like it just seemed like quirky and kind of funny. And then he becomes this big, huge director in Hollywood for a while. It's kind of great though. And that's also like another conversation about any director who starts in horror, most do in some way, are these like elevated, like then you got Peter Jackson and even James Cameron also sort of started in horror, and then they do their action movies, their dramas. But yeah, it's so crazy. It's the comedy I think though is special, and it's not, and yet he kind of does. I'll talk more about the sort of the romantic parts and like maybe the sentiment. It is sentimental, which always is like when you're a kid, when you're a 13-year-old girl, for me, it's great. And that's the best part. And the kissing's the best part. But it's such the tone in the first movie, I think, watching it. Everyone loves the second one. I know everyone loves the second one, but the first one I think really nails the tone. But I it's so funny. And then we'll mention it later too, the aspects of horror, because I don't think a lot of modern, unless you're a DC film, but a lot of modern Marvel movies have horror or some menace or like genuine suspense, I think. And I realized that there was a lot of that in this movie, and which is kind of like, again, a little offsets some of the humor, like a J. Jonah Jameson scene or just an immediate kind of like menace and you're having a good time kind of before with like Macy Gray and like a wrestling scene, like a silly wrestling scene. Then it's a little whiplash. Not whiplash, but in a good way.
I think that's a great point actually, because Eddie and I were talking about we talked about Batwoman a lot last season, and we talked about how the tone just jumped all over the place. But this is a movie where the tone transitions to many different places, but it's not jumping. It all feels earned. And I think, that's what you're saying. You have scenes that are shot like you're watching a horror movie, but then you got like these really fun J. Jonah Jameson scenes, like you said, J. Jonah Jameson scenes, but also it's fun, but it makes me anxious. Watching those scenes make me anxious, and I think it's such a the movie does a great job about balancing its tones like that.
Yeah, and that's what we were saying that before you just come on, is that I personally, and Jason was agreeing, the elements that I didn't know that I needed in a Spider-Man film that Sam Raimi brings to it, like the stuff with the Green Goblin, and then like the body transformation with Peter Parker. Yeah, that kind of calls for it, and the way that it's shot it's perfect. Actually, it lands it perfectly, and which leads me to believe, like, he was the guy for this. Like, I just didn't think of it like for a Spider-Man film that I would need horror elements in it, and just the way like the zooms and stuff like that that are there. I think it looks great. The film is shot beautifully.
I don't want to like jump to the end scene of like the final battle, because I haven't seen the movie in years, but I remember I was obsessed in like middle school, and these are the DVDs you watched and first like sort of owned for me, but the scene, the final fight scene at the end, I forgot. There's no music. it cuts out. There's no score, and it's just brutal punching, and he's bleeding. He's like bloody, and it's not fun blood. It's like awfully, like his mask is strategically ripped, but then the blood
he looks
is
messed up.
He does, and it's I don't know, it's real, and it makes you uncomfortable, and he's not your perfectly chiseled hero who's just got a couple punches and it's like, I can do this all day. No offense to Captain America. He is like, he's got his ass kicked, and it's so that's scary, and it's scary with the smoke, and it's just the two of them, and they're isolated, and it's manipulative, and he gets manipulative, and that's built just tension. But I just forgot that there was no music. The music is them punching each other. It's the zoom. It's his iconic, camera angles. Those camera angles are so like, and especially in the second movie too, they just really lend themselves to being a comic book. Yeah. And which is another reason, like he is kind of perfect for this. It's heightened. It's heightened in a good way. Everything is a little bit heightened. He
does. I think what any good director who does one of these movies does is he does what he does right by the franchise, but he puts his own stamp on it.
Yeah,
and I think this is a Sam Raimi movie that really does well for the source material.
Yeah, which I didn't know about until years later when I had read that Sam Raimi is a huge Spider-Man fan, but more of a 60s, 70s Spider-Man fan. And knowing that and rewatching this, and I mean, when it came out, and like you were saying, when it came out on DVD, I was obsessed with it because, as maybe you can tell behind me or whatever, I love Spider-Man. He's by far my favorite hero. But I was like so hyped up for this, and I haven't watched it in a really long time. I just sat down and really gave it a full rewatch. And you can see the love that Raimi pours into this film, and you can really see the love for the source material. And that's where I wanted to transition into, like, the casting of Tobey Maguire as Peter Parker. I'm going to tell you something. I've always loved Tobey Maguire as Peter Parker in Spider-Man. I never knocked him. I mean, Tom Holland, maybe his recency bias was taking over a little bit. I will say, I found a new appreciation for Tobey Maguire as Peter Parker and Spider-Man, again, coming from the lens of someone who's a original 60s Spider-Man fan. He is perfect for this. Even though he's obviously older, he's a little too old to be a teenager.
But he's so boyish. But he's very boyish. That's like when Andrew Garfield got cast. And Andrew Garfield was like, "Oh, that's perfect. Isn't that perfect? Because he's like a young, lanky. He's kind of silly. Like he should be like the hair. Like that's a perfect thing." But then I think back on, and I mean, Tobey Maguire, and he's like boyish. He's got a great body, but he's like a man. He does look like a man in the suit. Yeah. And then Tom Holland's a boy in my mind still, like he kind of always is. Yeah. I just watching
Tom Holland's a child.
he's a baby. He's a little baby, a little beautiful baby boy. But then I look at Tobey Maguire, and he's like, I think you'll get burned out by the 7th movie, and he not as a little annoying, but it's just like he's doing these strange things, and that's like just kind of a weird leading man thing to do. But that first movie, he really is he's earnest, he's like a puppy, and sincere though, and super sincere. Oh, I got a new appreciation from this movie, especially.
He does a great job in the transformation too. Like when you see him in the beginning before he gets his spider powers, he carries himself different. Like I forget. I don't know if you do. I forgot that Tobey Maguire is a hot guy until he gets his powers, and then he's like,
he's looking in the mirror, Jackson. You're like,
right, exactly.
Hit the gym. Okay.
Before that, I was like, oh yeah, he's like a nerdy schlub. But it's like, no, he's hot, super hot Tobey Maguire. But Tobey really pulls it off well, and that's why I really love him as Spider-Man. Who will be my favorite Spider-Man will be determined how good the next Tom Holland movie is. Because if Tom Holland does 3 fantastic Spider-Man movies, he's obviously my favorite. But I love Tobey Maguire as Spider-Man. I appreciate him this run, but I always appreciate him. Like I've never had hate on him. I don't even care I don't care how old he is. Look, I grew up in a time where high school students were Gabrielle Carteris when they are like 35 in high school in Beverly Hills 90210. It's like, and I work with high school students. You know what I don't want to see? I don't want to see high school students actually playing high school students, because as much as I love high school students because I work with them and they're wonderful, that's not what you want. Trust me, it's not what you want.
No, it's definitely not. But I also think that looking at this film, the Tom Holland's MCU Spider-Man is Spider-Man really in high school. Like, we pick him up when he's a sophomore.
Yeah,
right?
Yes.
yeah.
This Peter Parker is just graduating.
Yeah.
So you can kind of look like, if you were going to look at Peter Parker in college, then Tobey Maguire is probably your choice to go with. I mean, I can see him passing as a college student because he's very briefly in high school in his film. Like, he's probably in his last month. Yeah. This is not something I had to like think about again. I'm like, oh, all right, so maybe I won't ding them too bad for casting an adult as a high school student. This is Spider-Man the college years, so I can roll with that. It's
the college years.
Yeah, why not? And Roy, we have a comment here from Roy here, and I think that's relevant to what we're talking about. The movies make you feel like Peter. When Peter is over with being Spider-Man, you genuinely feel like it's over. When Peter is drained, so is the audience. Especially when Peter's swinging through the city, and you feel the grandiosity. Yeah, I agree. When he's screaming "woo" and all of this stuff, you're kind of like, yeah, I can see that. Like, you know, like, let's just say it's got to be like 19, 20 years old or something. I don't know, like 18, 19. Please help me out with ages when people graduate high school right now.
Are you kidding me?
Who knows?
If Eddie, you knew me in high school.
Yes.
Could you imagine if at 18 I all of a sudden was bitten by a radioactive spider and got Spider-Man powers?
I would have been wooing all over the place.
It would have been terrible.
Exactly.
He is such a nerd. He's like a good. Again, I don't want to like critique because Tom Holland is his own special beast, and like, and Andrew Garfield is like, in hindsight, should be amazing to me. Isn't really, because he's a different kind of nerd doing something different. I like the pure dorkiness. I always quote the line, because there's so many quotable lines in this movie, is the "let's get some lunch some evening," or let's get some, and it's so cringy, dorky, and like sweet. And that's really nice though. And he I think that would be my only criticism, and that's more of a script thing, is that his, you know, in the wrestling scene, he's like, "That's a nice outfit. Did your boyfriend make it for you?" And but that's
the comedy the comedy dated itself.
But that's the only quip they give him. They try to give him humor wise, and and then there's like nothing else, and he's just kind of, I don't know what his jabs are, right?
Rogan, this is true. I mean, it could be Macho Man's best acting performance.
Oh man, poor so roided out.
I do want to say that I did also make a note about the gay panic joke, which I was not happy about. But whatever. It's the only one.
It was very 2000s. Very 2000s.
I mean, you know.
I'll write it off first time.
Right, exactly. That's I kind of have to do that.
But that was like, what are the other quips though? Does he have any other quips besides that? Like as a hero?
Not really.
He's serious. Let's get he gets serious.
Yeah, well, that's what I was kind of thinking, right? When I couldn't help but trying to like compare him to Tom Holland, and I didn't want to do this either, but yeah, that's where I think Tom Holland as Spider-Man excels a lot, because he has the quips and he's more like Peter Parker in the comics. When he's Spider-Man, he's a super wise ass and everything like that. When he's Peter Parker, he's, you know, all nice and everything like that, and Tony, you don't have any of that. It is essentially two separate characters, and it's also Peter Parker like letting it out, letting his confidence out and everything like that. And that's why he has the mouth on him that he does when he's Spider-Man. And that's where I felt that we'll get into the Garfield movies in a few weeks. I think with the writing of that, before I don't want to dive into the whole thing with it, they just went over the top where they just made him like Spider-Man's actually an asshole. And that's why I didn't like those. That's why I didn't like those movies.
We'll get into it, but that was my issue too, because he was Jenny. It's like you said before. He's a different kind of nerd. It's like he's nerdy, but he's edgy and he's cool. Skateboarding, yeah, exactly. And it's like, no, this Peter Parker's like pocket protector, and that's the kind of nerdy.
That's the '60s Spider-Man. That's the '60s, '70s Spider-Man. If you go back and look at those comics, he literally is the super nerd in that.
Yeah. And maybe I'm also a big fan of the 60s Spider-Man too. Maybe that's why I didn't really jive with the Amazing Spider-Man.
Ultimate Spider-Man.
Because the ultimate. Because I've had students who told me that the Amazing Spider-Man is their Spider-Man.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think, you know, it is based on a run of comics. I just don't think it's a run of comics I read or would have enjoyed.
So I guess
Can I posit one thing before we get out of high school? I want to posit one thing, and that is the school bus driver is the real villain of this movie.
He was a jerk. He was everyone's bullying. Everyone's so mean.
Oh yeah.
You expect the kids to bully Peter, but when the bus driver's like, "Hey, fuck you, Parker," it's like, I mean, he doesn't actually do that, but he sees him and he speeds up.
The other nerds are mean to him too. The one girl's like, "You can't sit with me." Right. She's got glasses and pigtails, and I'm like, "You're the nerdiest of them all."
Damn, Peter,
she's a super nerd. She was bitten by a radioactive nerd. That's how she got her powers. And I wanted to just one more thing before we're out of high school. And I'm gonna give this movie the only ding I'm gonna give it, and that is only something a Queens boy would give this ding. Is this movie has no fucking idea how Queens works.
No.
How do you walk out of your apartment in Forest Hills? I know exactly what the block is because my ex-girlfriend, you know, Kelly, Eddie, Kelly, her name was.
Yes.
You lived on a block with her, right?
Yes.
Part of her family lives on the block they filmed that scene. So I know exactly where that block is in Forest Hills. It's right by the McDonald's off of Metropolitan Avenue, right? Then why does he turn the corner and he is in Sunnyside or Woodside? He's like 3 blocks away from the bar he used to drink in underage. How the hell does that happen? And then they're talking about, well, he's been running since Woodhaven Boulevard.
I know, I heard
Woodhaven
that.
Boulevard's miles away, people. What are you doing? Look at the map.
So my wife Angie was watching this with me the other day, and she even said that. She's like, wait a second. Running from Woodhaven Boulevard. I was like, all right, Angie, time out, because you grew up in Kansas City. So you didn't live in New York when this movie came out.
Kansas City?
No, she did. She grew up and raised in Kansas City. So I'm like, you didn't know that until you went ahead and moved to Queens, right? It's like, yeah. So over the last 10 years, you learned that.
I was catching he ran whether he was like when he gets his powers and he's exploring, he just ran. He's doing an Askin, I think, and I recognized it. I was like, oh yes, I have brunch there like all the time, and it was just kind of like I was like, now I can recognize. Now that I'm a Queens girl, I realize
now you own property in Queens, so now it's in
I own property in Queens, Philadelphia and Queens, and that's it.
That's it.
All right, so I guess let's talk about William Dafoe. Let's talk about the Green Goblin in this film. I know there's some people who give it shit because he has the mask and you can't see his mouth moving, and he's not an actual mutated goblin per se, that they went with like a suit of armor instead. You know, like in the comics.
It's a suit in the comics. It's not a suit,
it's a mask and stuff like that. He has a pack. But there was also other iterations where he mutated into an actual goblin.
I do. My husband had a good point. He didn't watch it with me, but we were talking about just like, I guess like a few weeks ago, and we were joking about, like how, or if you were going to do a new Green Goblin in new movies, like how would you do it? And he goes, it's just like a pity. He goes, that mask is so awful. And he goes, and William Dafoe has a goblin face. Like his face is so like angular. He's very handsome, but he's is like a goblin, and he makes it like that. And you're like, you missed out. I don't know. And just like maybe not mutate him, but I don't know. Do you want to do the thing? Do you want to do the Dane DeHaan effects with the weird? I don't know. Like, what do you do?
Sick. He just looks sick in that.
I'm gonna defend this Green Goblin actually, because I don't like it as much as I like the way the comics accurate one looks, but I'm never going to, right? With the exception of maybe Doc Ock. I think Doc Ock looks pretty fucking awesome in Spider-Man 2. Yes. But this was made at a time when we did not realize, nor did we have the technology to make comic book accurate things look good in real life. We have it now. The MCU does it all the time, but even they have to change things. So I think Sam Raimi going, you know what? Why does he have superpowers if he just puts a cloth mask on? That's not going to look good. It's just green and purple. Let's give him muted colors with a suit to give him the power. I don't necessarily love the choice, but I understand why they made it. And I think had they not, we would have gotten, like, they were trying to avoid things like we've covered on the show before, Fantastic Four, or things like, what else have we that god awful Captain America movie? Like they were trying to avoid ridiculous looking things, and I think what they had in their head was comic book accurate things look ridiculous, so we have to make it look real. So I'm not going to ding it for the way the Green Goblin looks. I think you know, Willem Dafoe could have pulled something off had they done something different, but how they did it makes sense for the time, and I'm okay with it.
I do love the mirror scenes, and that's kind of a sample because again, I think it's like that's an Evil Dead 2 with Ash fighting himself in the mirror, and he's got the evil Ash in him.
That's what I
and
thought about too.
Yeah, I watched the movie and I was like, oh, this is such a Sam Raimi thing, but he's so like this is our William Dafoe Academy Award nominee, beloved America's sweetheart, you know, crushing it. Because it's all you need is just like him, and then him turning, and then he's normal, and he's just like sinister again. Yeah. And I'm like, yeah, that's how perfect. That's, you know,
and he's an actor that can pull that off. Not every actor can pull that off. Like, you know that they weren't doing anything to his face. That was him acting the different parts. You know what I'm saying? And I just I cannot speak to how much I love Willem Dafoe in this movie, and how happy I am that we are getting him in No Way Home.
Oh, me too.
Yeah.
Did you also
welcome back to it?
So did you see The Lighthouse? Did we all see The Lighthouse?
I haven't seen it yet.
I did not.
Oh, it's so good.
Is it good? It's worth seeing?
It's totally worth seeing. They're both amazing. Both should have been nominated for Oscars. I love Robert Eggers. Yeah, but that's a great movie. Everyone check it out.
That's also a great scene that William Dafoe has with it. When he lures Spider-Man into the burning building and stuff, and of course he goes in and he's telling him how predictable he is, and it was just a scream when he turns around with it. I thought it was kind of like a jump scare thing. The first time you saw it.
That scene is shot like a horror movie, because when Spider-Man gets there, you see the Green Goblin. You know it's a Green Goblin yet kind of moving in the background, and then there's the jump scare, and I love the scene that leads up to that too, where they're hunting Spider-Man, like the cops, and they're like, "All right, go, but I'm going to get you when you get back." And I love that Spider-Man goes, "I'm not coming back."
No.
It's just like, go. And I love realistic moments like that, because if I were a superhero and a cop was like, "Go save that person, I'll arrest you when you get back," I'd be like, "No, I'm not coming back. So do it or let me go."
And they need him.
What he does, you know?
The scene at the end that we discussed a little bit earlier, which Alex has a comment on here too, and I did want to get your take on this. What I love about the final scene between Peter Parker and Green Goblin is that the Green Goblin knows that Peter Parker is dedicated to being Spider-Man and to save the city, and it forces him to choose between the love of his life and his citizens. And the Green Goblin tried to make his choice one out of the two, which is reminiscent of when he can't be Peter Parker and Spider-Man at the same time. Yeah, I mean they do touch on that at the end of the film, which is pretty much what his decision is, and it leads into the second movie. But the first time you saw this, though, and Jeannie, I'm not really sure how much you're aware of this moment in the comic books when this happens, but with Gwen Stacy. Gwen Stacy dies. And the first time I saw this movie, the second I saw the bridge and everything, I'm like, they're gonna fucking kill MJ in the first movie. Are you serious? I was shocked that they went with that, but
that's even more suspenseful, knowing what you know the fans would know, and then thinking, oh my god, like the first movie, first time out, like we're just gonna kill her, and
it's done. That's it.
Yeah, I had the same thing when I was a kid. So I
didn't think about
Spider-Man
that.
is my second favorite, right? So when I was a kid, I became obsessed with trying to find reprints of classic Spider-Mans. Now this was the 80s, 90s, so this was before you could just go and get graphic novels. So they would actually reprint issues. And one that I bought for way more money than it was worth was a reprint of Gwen Stacy's death. And I love the way that plays out in the comic. And this is literally the comic almost beat for beat. Like, you know, Gwen Stacy dies. MJ does not. But I think that's the only difference. Like, the way the Green Goblin dies in the comic is the way he dies in this. He rams himself with the glider. And the Green Goblin was the first character that I knew of as a kid who died in the comic and stayed dead, because he didn't come back until like 2000, right?
For a while.
Yeah. So that was a seminal moment for me, because that was where I learned, oh wow, okay, some people can die and not come back in comics. So like I loved this ending. Like I cannot talk about how much I love this ending because of my history with the Gwen Stacy ending.
So, and I think that also transitions us to talking about Kirsten Dunst as Mary Jane Watson. I honestly think they should have went with Gwen Stacy. I think she would have been a much better Gwen Stacy than she was an MJ. I mean, I've kind of always thought this though since I saw the film.
When I was a kid, and when you're like a dopey little kid, you're like, oh, she's red hair, perfect, like great, she looks good, she's like gorgeous, and then you realize no, she's supposed to be a little bit more. That's why I was kind of pumped when Zendaya was cast as MJ, or like was the rumor, because I was like, yeah, she's charismatic, she's hot, she's like that's kind of MJ is like a party girl. That's typically the thing, and Kristen Dunst is like, you just look at her filmography, she's more of a Gwen Stacy, really. Like,
yes,
in hindsight, she really is, and the character's a little, again, sentiment. The lines are very sentimental.
Yeah.
There's only like a few times where you can just see her, like when she's sad, she's got when she has the parent scene, and she shifts when like Flash comes in, and she's like, oh my gosh, like she just turns on a dime, and you're like, okay, there's like this a little bit of trauma, but she really is like she's hiding this sensitive girl inside. Yeah. And then the rest of the movie, and the second movie is her very, I don't know, like not very fun. She's
not at all. And I'm kind of surprised when Raimi doing this movie and his love for the 60s, 70s, I am surprised that I just have always been surprised they skipped over Gwen Stacy. She didn't exist. And then they bring her in really awkwardly in the third film, which was a huge mistake.
Stupid.
Huge mistake.
I'm going to dissent a little bit on this. I think she'd make a great Gwen Stacy. I don't know why they didn't go Gwen Stacy in this movie. However, I do really like her as MJ. This in my mind, when I think of like who is my screen MJ, it's her. Like I love Zendaya, and I think I was just telling Regina this, like, people who complain that, oh, well, that doesn't look like MJ in the comic or whatever. It's like, okay, you know what? In my opinion, you have a good MJ comic live action. It's called Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 1, 2, and 3. Go fucking watch that and let me enjoy my Zendaya. But, having said that, I do really like her as MJ. I don't always think she's likable as a character. And I think that could be an issue.
Writing.
MJ, but that is writing. That's the thing. It's like, because MJ is always a likable character in the comic, as far as I've seen. But I don't think it's her performance that takes away, as you said. I think it's the writing.
I think she's doing exactly what she's supposed to do. I think she's just a little, but I think that's just like, maybe it's just ties to the romance of, and again, we talk about everything's a little bit heightened. So if it's horrific, it's going to be horror. If it's funny, it's going to be, super 1940s kind of like slapsticky. And their romance is it goes into the love theme, and it's very, again, maybe it's sentimental, but I think it's super, super sweet. I think it gets a little over the top in the second one. The first one, I think it's a perfect little balance. And I'm a sucker for and that's like halfway where she falls in love with Spider-Man, is like, I'm in love with somebody I've never seen his face, and I'm a sucker. It's a Meridian Chase thing, and I love it. It's like I'm totally in love with. It's really you, but I'm,
Did you just reference Batman Forever?
Yeah, I love her.
Twice in this episode.
This is the second time Batman Forever has been referenced in this episode. Is why I'm asking.
Great movie, guys. Love it. It's a great film.
Well, I guess we'll have to bring it back when we get to the Batman.
Yeah,
please do.
You could be the person who defends that when we get to that movie.
All right, I'm in, guys. Let's go.
Well, I also think there's one thing that I don't think makes a whole lot of sense, and I want to transition to the next character to talk about, is MJ dating Harry Osborn is completely
weird,
stupid. It just makes no sense. It comes completely out of nowhere, and it's just there.
And why?
Why?
Yeah, that's a good point, because he can't. There's that will they won't.
He can, I guess. And they just seem like they don't really have any chemistry together.
Yeah.
Where did they actually like each other? He kind of did it because he can, because Peter wouldn't make a move.
She doesn't.
That's what your best friend is gonna do, really?
He tries to give her a kiss. I assume they've been dating for a few weeks. Well, this hasn't been his father yet, but she like turns away from him. He's like, gonna give her a nice little kiss, and you're a 2002 James Franco. I don't,
I kissed 2002 James Franco, and I'm completely straight.
Say what you will about him now, but I go, this was the heartthrob of he was our James Dean of the 2000s.
This was 2000. This was James Franco in his prime.
And I think I dinged him. So we know a lot about James Franco now.
Sure.
His performance in this film as Harry Osborn, out of the 3 movies he was Harry Osborn, he is actually really good.
I think
this is his best performance as Harry Osborn.
I agree. I agree. I think
He's
there's
super
so
good.
much. There's so many good. He has great chemistry with Peter. His terrible chemistry with MJ, but he has great chemistry with Peter
And his father.
and his father.
Yes.
And
His
I
father.
love the
I love the
father
scene.
stuff. I love how it's obvious his father is fawning over Peter and not him, and he's disappointed. And he handles that so well, like as an actor. I think he is a great Harry, and I've read Harry Osborn comic books because I'm also a Spider-Man comic fan, and I think he's a great Harry Osborn. I think he Harry Osborn in the comic is one of those guys who's like kind of hapless until he becomes the Green Goblin.
Yeah.
And I think we do see that. We don't see that in this movie with him because he doesn't become the Green Goblin. But I think his arc in these 3 movies really exemplifies that.
I think I wrote that he was kind of not pathetic, but like there was a sad, pathetic because he's like a rich boy energy about him. But he's like, and he's kind of an asshole to like MJ, and he's like, I'm gonna be half the man my father is, and I'm like, you're just like a sad, like you just want approval, and he gets that energy. That's like, and that's a hard thing to do. And he looks like he's a very handsome guy. So how do you pull off the? I'm gonna be friends with the lone nerd at the school. This is my buddy. I don't know. It's like I was like that. What a weird kind of. I don't know who else is up for it, but he nails it. I think that's like that weird, like a little pathetic energy. Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. And even that scene in the beginning when you see him and Peter in high school on that trip, that's all believable. I believe they're friends.
Oh no, I definitely think so. But as far as characters that are really pretty much jump off comic pages at you as well, J.K. Simmons,
yes,
so good
as J. Jonah Jameson. I mean, like. You mentioned it earlier. I mean, they're still going to him. They're still going to him.
Like, here's the thing.
Holy shit.
If I could Constantine a J. Jonah Jameson from the page into real physical life, it would be J.K. Simmons. He's fucking amazing at this. And like, so we talked about before, like when he is like barking orders, I am anxious. The man makes me anxious. But then you have this beauty, and this is probably the moment, my favorite J. Jonah moment, is he does not sell Peter Parker out to the Green Goblin.
Yeah, interesting.
The Green Goblin breaks into his office, grabs him by the throat, picks him up. Peter Parker is right fucking there. And he's like, I don't know who sent it. They just send it. It's anonymous. And it's like, you know what? He's not a good guy, but he's not a bad guy either.
Maybe he protects his employees. Maybe he's verbally abusive. But maybe, we don't know. Maybe he
But he's got your back.
He's got your back. Probably supports your family somehow,
That's right. He's going to make you feel like shit every day, but he will not let someone murder you in your sleep.
He sends you Christmas meat. That's what he said, right? He says Christmas
meat.
I was cackling because this is like, what was J.K. Simmons doing around this time? Because he's so perfect. And then and of course, like he wins an Oscar later. But oh my gosh, like I was genuine, and I knew these jokes. Like I used to watch this movie like a trillion times. You'd quote it, but then like watching it again, I was genuine like, like, what is? Oh God, he's like, oh, I know your problem. You don't trust anyone. And he goes, trust my barber.
Yeah,
that was great.
That's great. You're right, and it's his delivery that makes it.
Oh man, that's it. Just the one line. Oh man, it's so good.
That's fantastic.
Another character that jumps off the pages is Rosemary Harris as Aunt May. I mean, listen, I enjoy Marissa Tomei's current Aunt May because it's different, and it makes sense with Tom Holland. But
I find
this
it
is
weird.
the comic book one. I mean, this is comic book Aunt May.
I find it weird that I'm sexually attracted to Aunt May when it comes to Marissa Tomei.
Why not?
I do it. But I mean, she's gorgeous. Come on.
What's your 50 what? 50.
Look, I sometimes when I was single, I used to watch that episode of Seinfeld when she played Marissa Tomei into short bald guys, and I'm like, come on now, Marissa, I'm right here.
Oh my gosh.
But having said all of that, I think this is comic book accurate Aunt May. Like that's why I think the MCU can do whatever they want, because we have comic book accurate Spider-Man stuff here that we can go to, and this is a great Aunt May. She's phenomenal.
Very traditional. That's the same for like we don't really have a lot of Ben Parkers either.
No, this is it. I mean, sorry, Martin Sheen also.
Martin Sheen.
Whatever.
I did like Martin Sheen as Ben Parker.
Yeah.
I do want to say that I did like him as Ben Parker. I just didn't need to see Ben Parker die again.
But poor Cliff Robert, he's so sweet. He reminded me of my grandpa. Actually, I realized, and he's like, he's like, oh, I don't. It's like a hardworking, strapping kind of older man. I was like, he's so sweet. He was.
You feel terrible for him when Peter lets him have it in the car.
Oh
you really feel that scene bad.
Even when Peter just flakes on him painting the kitchen, like, because if you know Spider-Man, you know that you're just fucking ticking down the minutes till Uncle Ben's dead, you know? And so to watch that, which is comic books accurate, like, I don't think it happens exactly like that, but Peter Parker's kind of a shit until Uncle Ben dies after he gets his powers. And to watch that is kind of heartbreaking when you see those scenes, knowing where it's going.
Yeah. I thought there was some fun cameos of actors that ended up getting a lot bigger. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I want to ask, and I think this is where you're going, so that's why I want to ask this question. Did anyone catch the other Oscar winner who was had literally a throwaway nothing role in this movie?
Is it Viola Davis? No, Olivia Viola Davis. Oh my gosh, Octavia Spencer.
Yes. Octavia, that's where you were going, right, Ed?
Yeah. Viola Davis is in Kate and Leopold. I'm like, what are you doing in this? You have like a line in Kate and Leopold, Viola Davis.
Well,
beloved.
She's also in Suicide Squad, right? That's Viola
Davis. She's Amanda Waller.
Yeah.
But we also get, speaking of, not exactly Suicide Squad, but Joe Manganiello is Flash Thompson.
Oh my god!
Oh, that's Joe Manganiello.
Yeah.
That's Joe Manganiello.
Alcee from True Blood. I love him. Yes. Now he's in the DC.
Well. Yeah. He's all over the place now. He's a big deal.
Too.
I talked
that was him
because because I'll always kind of tie him. Anything I see him in now, I'm like, you're Flash from Spider-Man, and me and my sister are talking about it because he looks like, talk about adults playing teenagers, but he also is such a good Sam Raimi actor. I feel like Sam Raimi should pull him back because he's like kind of a little Bruce Campbell-y. He's like very animated, super over the top, and I was like, that's a Sam Raimi actor if I ever saw one.
He's there in Flash Thompson, and then we get Elizabeth Banks as Betty Brant.
Which I didn't even recognize her. I went to Reg. I'm like, wait, who is that again? She's like, that's Elizabeth Banks. I'm like, I didn't even recognize her.
So many people.
And Macy Gray, ladies and gentlemen, Macy Gray. She tried to walk away from this movie, but she stumbled. So they can't all work. It doesn't matter. I tried it. It didn't work. I won't do it again. Let's move on.
And then I think we also could talk about Danny Elfman's score of the film as well. I mean, I know Alex has a comment here. Did a great job composing the soundtrack. I mean, he also did Batman as well, Tim Burton's Batman movies, and amongst 1,000 other things. And
The Simpsons, and Tales from the Crypt, and like a few, and pretty much everything. Dick Tracy, which he literally has done. Did he do? I think he might have done some music for Sweeney Todd too. He's all over the place.
He's done a lot of Tim Burton stuff.
That killed me that I realized he only was Oscar nominated for Big Fish. Isn't that crazy? He's never had a lot of Oscar nominations. That blew my mind. We had to Google it. We had to pull up his IMDb. Maybe someone do it now. Maybe I'm wrong.
How is he?
It's Big Fish. It's just Big Fish is the Oscar nomination.
That's crazy because Batman,
Batman
is probably his most iconic score.
Yeah. I'll never forget my husband one time we watched the first Batman because we're like, well, we haven't watched 89 in a while. Let's put it on. And then, just playing the credits, that music goes. And I just turn, I'm like, man, what a great score. How often do you think about this score? And my husband, without missing a beat, goes, I think about this score every day. Every day of my life, I run this through my head. And I was like, oh, what?
That's awesome.
Oh, no, it's absolutely a dynamite score there.
It's great. No, but this is this is also super beautiful, just a little haunting. I don't know, captures that sort of sentimentality too, I think.
I agree. And I think it does. I think Elfman is the perfect person to go for, especially around this time for your superhero stuff, because it doesn't sound anything like the Batman stuff, but it's just as iconic. It's just as sort of, it embodies
complex.
The tone of the movie. It complex. Yeah.
Very complex.
That's a great way to put it.
And all of this ties together though, because this is one of those things Rogan's commenting here. First movie I remember taking over movie theaters like that. I mean, yeah, it was like, I remember seeing it in the theater, jam-packed, crowd reactions all over the place, people losing their shit. I did see it in the Midway Theater right by where Jason lives now. In
Midway.
Queens. Yeah, love the Midway Theater. But this is one of those like comic book tentpole movies that I think that I look back on that really were game changers. Like you had the original Superman the movie, right? Then I think after that you have Batman '89, which is another one that made it. We gave Blade a lot of props because they get shit on constantly.
Look, Blade. I'm going to say, I said it on our Blade episode. I'm going to say it again. There is no MCU without that first Blade movie. That's it. That's a fact.
It's a Marvel movie.
Yep. Yeah, because it was the first one that gave the Marvel on the map because they never had a big theatrical release before.
And it was rated R, and it was a badass movie, and it wasn't
Wesley Snipes, and it was just a cool movie. It was horror, and it was action, and it was one of the few properties that Marvel could not auction off because that was the thing. Is like the reason the MCU is such a special thing, and Disney has to literally get all of the Infinity Stones by buying every single goddamn company that ever looked at a Marvel property, is because Marvel sold their properties off and auctioned them off, and so they didn't own any of the rights to do this stuff. And so Blade was the only thing they had, and Blade is the one that kept them afloat and made them a little money and went, wait a minute, maybe we can actually do something with this.
Yeah. So then after Blade, I mean, X-Men gets its props, which was the big one, the first X-Men.
X-Men, I think,
raised the bar after that.
But I remember because you're seeing X-Men on like. Because I read comics. My brothers were super into the comics, but we watched the cartoons all the time, like religiously.
Oh, that 90s cartoon is amazing.
Oh, it just perfect. And like I said, there was a lot of Spider-Man. Just I know Morbius only from the cartoons of Spider-Man. It's like super the weird lore, but then like that was like X-Men was different. It was like they were super serious in gray suits. They weren't our like our X-Men that we knew and loved from when we were kids. It's like it was a bit scarier. And then I remember seeing a still because you had to read magazines, and I just saw perfect Spider-Man costume, like perfect colors, Mary Jane, red hair, and I was like, this is Spider-Man. This is like. This is it. And like, he's not in a dark suit or anything like that. And that was kind of, I think, different for me.
Yeah, and that's why I think this Spider-Man is the game changer. Yeah, like you said, X-Men tried to make it more grounded, or like the dark suits you had mentioned, but Spider-Man was like, that's Spider-Man. That is the costume. That is it. He's swinging around, which if you want to say the CGI is obviously dated, fine. You can't do anything about that.
Look,
it's not technology yet.
You can't ding a movie because it was made before CGI was
good,
as good as it is today. You can't ding a movie for that.
No, not at all. I mean, shit, fucking like he's mostly CGI now. So
I was watching this in a really nice 4K TV that we bought like a year ago, and I realized, of course, you can see the CGI, like when it's bad, it's like, oh, look at that, like him kind of climbing up, but then seeing the just pure what's practical, like the fight scenes and his suit and the costumes look great and look so good, and
so many of those goblin scenes are practical effects. Which I think that makes it look good. Like I remember like the goblin scene where he comes in and pretty much tries to kill his son and MJ and does effectively kill the people trying to take his company. Like when he's on the glider, like coming at them, like that was actually, I believe, Willem Dafoe on like some machine to make it look like he was on the glider. And I think the fact that they only relied on CGI when they absolutely had to, sort of makes me go like, because there are movies that I watch now where I'm like, the CGI is terrible and 90% of this movie is CGI. I can't forgive it. You could have done some practical things. This does the CGI as it needs to because there are just certain things that you can't do in real life, but it does. And again, this is Sam Raimi, and Sam Raimi is a director, and his really good understanding of practical effects, right? If you watch Evil Dead movies, that's all like porn serum, right? But he understands how to stretch a practical effect to make it look good, and it's really evident here. And I think that's why it works, even though the CGI is dated.
I'm sure it gets better and as it goes along. Obviously, you get more money. Especially the Doc Ock stuff, which is actually all practical too. For the most part, is like again just something I wish more Marvel movies would do nowadays, but I know that's time consuming. So,
Well, we just found out, it was yesterday, Tom Holland disclosed in an interview that, Doc Ock's arms in No Way Home are going to be all CGI now, and that like
That's
Alfred
awesome.
Molina had to like learn how to act differently
right,
with like nothing there now.
Right.
So I thought it was really interesting.
That's actually awesome to know. Like, I kind of wish that it was still practical, but I think it's awesome to know that Alfred Molina's like, wait, but there's nothing there. When I did it last time, there was something there.
So yeah, I think overall, like going back on this, I mean, listen, I never didn't love the film. I've always loved the film, and it kind of just warmed my heart again. And I watched this with like a smile ear to ear, and I was like, had to pause it. I didn't want to miss a scene or anything. To walk out of the room, I was like all locked in, and it just reinvigorated me with like, you know something, man. Toby's got to show up in No Way Home. He's really got to show up in No Way Home.
Yeah,
and I said he's the one who I believe who's in it. Garfield, I'm not so sure. But.
Yeah. I think, but here's the thing. I don't need Garfield in there. It's fine if he's in there. I don't need him in there. You're giving me the Green Goblin and you're giving me Dr. Octopus.
Same movie.
In the same movie, you have to give me Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man. You just fucking have to.
No love for Electro, huh?
Well, you don't know this, Jenny. I've never seen that movie.
Oh,
no, he hasn't.
Oh, no. The second one.
The second Amazing Spider-Man.
The second Amazing Spider-Man, which he's going to see for the first time.
Yes, when we do
for
it
the
here.
show.
Enjoy. I've never actually. I don't think I've finished that movie.
Why would you?
I don't know. It's a mess.
But like, so I like Jamie Foxx a lot, but I don't really like what I hear of that Electro. That's right. This is like
King Toby.
These episodes are Alex's time to shine. Alex is my nephew who loves these Sam Raimi movies. He visited me over the summer, and we rewatched all three of them in like 2 days.
Oh, so good.
Yeah.
Which is great. I think it's so cool because I mean, Alex is like considerably younger.
Yeah,
and he appreciates Tobey Maguire and like loves Tobey Maguire. I can't wait for his defenses of Spider-Man 3 because I think when it first came out, I wanted to love it so much because I was so hyped for it.
Yeah.
And then I saw it. I couldn't do it anymore.
I'll tell you something.
I had to let it go.
Alex's defenses of Spider-Man 3 that I've heard go one of two ways. One, they made me go, okay, yeah, I could see that. There's more to the movie that we give credit for. But the second is like listening to me defending Suicide Squad.
The first one,
do
you defend Suicide Squad?
We did a whole episode where I defended Suicide Squad.
You really?
Gina, I suggest you go back and I suggest you go back and watch the Suicide Squad episode, and
I'm not
give him all the crap for it.
Okay, but you're not like being what's it called?
I'm not being
ironic.
I'm not being sarcastic or ironic. I think it is a very flawed movie. It's not a great movie at all. But I think Margot Robbie and Will Smith and Viola Davis do enough that makes me okay to watch it. And there's like Batman stuff in there. So like, it's not a good movie. We watched it and I literally said every time they dinged it, I was like, yeah, just turn your brain off. You're right. It's a terrible moment. Turn your brain off. Margot Robbie's here. Like, Harley Quinn is in the scene. Like, so that is how I defend that movie, to be clear.
That's I was like, I enjoy. I won't turn it off. I'm like, Suicide Squad, leave it on the background.
I think it's fine. Like it's
aesthetically,
it's not something that offends me. It's fine.
I'm offended by it.
I know you're offended.
You go back and watch that episode. Me and Tony are like,
oh man,
we're chomping at the bit and we're like yelling about how much we hate this movie. And it's a very interesting panel that we had for that one.
And I'm just like, guys, turn it off. It's fine. Turn it off.
No. Shush. Turn it off.
Yeah, this time around I couldn't, and by the way,
that's an old episode.
That's a contentious episode. I'll check it out.
Please do go back and check that out. And Rory, I think you're new to watching those too. If you're interested in Suicide Squad, I'm curious. Come back in 2 weeks. Well, no, come back next week, and then come back again the week after, and watch all of them. But yes, we're going to be talking about Spider-Man 3. That should be very interesting.
That's people seem to be defending it more, and I
don't know what's going on here. It's kind of crazy.
Ginny, I have to be honest. When I reached out to you and I asked you which of these 3 Raimi Spider-Man films you want to be on, I expected you to go full in Spider-Man 3 is the best. Like
Mm.
because I know your type of
Yes.
like we have very
Yes.
similar tastes.
Yes.
And I thought you were going to go all in on defending Spider-Man 3. So when you said Spider-Man 1, I was like, that was unexpected.
It was a safe choice. That's funny. That was a bad, like, because I put that movie off. Like, I should have watched it in theaters and I didn't.
No,
And then,
you
like,
shouldn't
it kind of got like, because I don't know what was going on. But then I was like, I just feel like I don't remember a lot of it. And it's cringy, like, not in, again, like with the Gwen Stacy stuff. And then there's like, it's just so strange.
What is emo Peter
Cringy.
and then he's hitting Mary Jane.
I don't know.
And Venom, like I think Roy's
the
right. You take
villains?
Venom out of that movie, it's a better movie.
Oh, I absolutely agree with you. And again, I don't want to bury
Yeah.
our show from 2 weeks from now because I don't want to.
We'll talk about it.
We'll talk about it mainly then. But I started at midnight, of course, because that's when you did midnight showings then, and I was beyond amped up for this movie. I was like, oh my god, there's Venom, there's Sandman, there's this, and then we got the turd that we got, and I was like pretty upset. And again, I saw it multiple times in the theater, wanting to try to like it more and more,
Really?
and it just wasn't, and it started pissing me off further and further and further.
Like, what did I miss? What went wrong? What did I miss? What did I not catch in this movie that I know is good?
That was my experience with Episode 1 of Star Wars: Phantom Menace. That's why I was so burned that I disliked the prequel so much. It's because I saw Phantom Menace. I was so excited about it. And I watched it. And I went, that was terrible. It must be my fault. I didn't get it. Let me see it a couple more times. And I literally saw it a couple more times, and I went, no, that's just terrible.
Oh,
so
no.
That's my experience.
I wanted to like certain movies so much, and I kept rewatching and hoping to find something better. And it just pisses me off even more, and it just goes in the exact opposite direction.
You gave it a go. Oh, you tried.
Sometimes you try. I mean, come on, Spider-Man live action. Of course, I was going to try it.
Of course.
Yeah, of course.
It was all there. So much was there.
Yeah, I agree. I think you should do that, and then come check us out in 2 weeks. Drogan, go get hammered and join us for Spider-Man 3 in a couple of weeks. I can't say you won't regret it.
No, well, no. If you're hammered, you won't regret it because you might not remember it.
I don't remember it.
It's true. It's very fair.
Before we wrap this movie up, can I just say two more things?
Yes.
Because there were notes that I didn't get to when we got to the scene. So, Peter essentially murders the guy who kills Uncle Ben, which I really like.
Yeah. That scene's scary too.
And that was the scene.
Scene's a little scary.
That was the scene that I wrote down, which I wanted to bring it up. That was shot like a horror movie.
Mm-hmm.
He's like falling down from the ceiling in the back, and he's out of focus. Like there's some really good filmmaking technique in here. But yeah, so I love the fact that he pretty much kills Uncle Ben's killer and everything, but he does everything but push the guy pretty much.
But is it Uncle Ben's killer?
No, it is. It is. No. We haven't gotten there yet. It is still.
Okay, that's true. It didn't happen yet.
Didn't happen yet. They haven't retconned us yet.
No.
And I want to say that this version of New York is a dystopian nightmare that people get rolled around and shot at and beat up by and mugged all the time. Like I watch as an adult, I'm watching a lot of the superhero properties, and I'm going, "This is great!" Because I love this stuff, but it's also like in real life, this is terrible.
Terrible. The crime is up. Who was the mayor at the time? Giuliani. Who was it?
Yeah, right. We got to get rid of Spider-Man.
Spider-Man's a menace.
He's a menace. We're gonna push Spider-Man and the squeegee people and all of the sex workers in a Long Island City where they belong.
Cleaned up 42nd Street. You got to get out the Spider-Man.
Well, I'll tell you a quick story. I used to work in Long Island City, right, for a limousine company, and it was right by the 59th Street Bridge. And every now and then, I'd go outside. I used to smoke cigarettes. I'd go outside. I'd have a cigarette. And sex workers would walk from the bridge. And because they were, in fact, in Long Island City. And then one time, actually, Spider-Man walked from the bridge. And I was like, Spider-Man, what are you doing? He was like, yeah, Giuliani pushed me into Long Island City with the sex workers. So it was a very bizarre moment.
Jordan's right. It's 80s movie New York where the streets are always wet and people die.
That's right. That's right.
Oh my
and
gosh.
and every person is just looking to rape you around every
Yes.
corner, no matter what. Like, because that's what pretty much happens to Mary Jane, right? Like, they just
There's
converge
like a
on her and
gang,
try to
yeah.
rape
Yes.
her.
Yes.
Before we get a very nice scene, which is like the iconic
Oh, the
scene of
best.
the film with the
The
upside down
kiss,
kiss,
the
and
Has yet to be topped. Oh,
Tobey
so good.
Maguire talks about like the water going up his nose
But
constantly.
it
and all
looks
that.
so.
It
I
looks
think
great.
Look good.
I think about that, but I go, oh, what a like a great, intimate, beautiful moment. Beautiful
I
moment.
Yes.
wish Kirsten Dunst would just come from out of nowhere backward and kiss me like that.
Jason,
Okay.
Jason, put it this way though, it could be worse. There could be a guy in a hockey mask walking around Manhattan with wet streets who dumps people's heads into toxic waste barrels because we know they were always in alleys in Manhattan.
In New York.
But
Back in
that
the
only
80s.
happens in Canada.
Wait, but hold on,
In
you
New
tell
York,
me that
Canada.
was shot in
Canada, New York.
Vancouver? No.
Yeah. Jason Takes Vancouver. You never saw that
Oh
movie?
my god. No way.
They spend 10 minutes in Vancouver and the rest on a boat.
They do actually. That's the funny part is that movie, Jason Takes Manhattan. They spend the entire movie on that boat,
Oh,
10
God.
minutes in Vancouver, Manhattan. So he doesn't even take Vancouver. He shows up and does a little touristy stuff.
It's Jason takes a ride on a boat. We know
Yeah,
that's the name of the
that's
film.
it,
I mean,
exactly
to
it.
Vancouver. Well, whatever. We get into horror mode. It's because
Yeah,
it's
we'll
close
get
to
there.
Halloween, but whatever. Go ahead. Was there any other scenes you wanted to bring up?
No, those are my two things. Those are my two things: the dystopian nightmare and Peter kills his Uncle Ben's killer.
Oh my gosh.
Gene, you have any other scenes you want?
I said
Discuss?
I have Bruce Campbell, of course,
Campbell,
is
that's a
everything.
great scene.
Oh, he's so special and so wonderful. And then Lucy Lawless.
Lucy
she's-
Lawless as the
is
guy's
the-
like, oh, he's hot. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Eight
looks
arms or
great.
something like that.
Looks
Yeah.
fabulous. Looks wonderful. Love her.
I didn't realize that was her actually.
I had thought for the longest time till I don't know,
Yeah.
till I was probably in college. And I was like, oh, Lucy Lawless, what you doing here? Oh my gosh.
There was a rumor at one point that Raymond, that I was about to say Ray, that he was actually Mysterio, Bruce Campbell.
I
At the end of the
know.
movies, he was Mysterio,
Yeah.
and that never came to be.
Just give me a little bit, like maybe it could have been a little villain in one of the third one or something, but
I want to go to the the alternate universe in the multiverse where Bruce Campbell actually in Spider-Man 4 was Mysterio.
yes.
Oh yes, we will talk about the potential Spider-Man 4 when we talk about Spider-Man 3.
We will.
Because
We
there
have to.
was a whole lot about that.
I just mentioned the soundtrack is love. Say what you will about Chad Kroeger. That soundtrack is, I would study with that soundtrack, all of the songs and the score on there too. I love it.
Oh, I
love it.
worked
Yeah,
at
it is a good soundtrack.
I worked at a Sam Goody at the time, and Sony was one of our, the rep would come in and was like, oh, I want to add space and stuff, and they put up Spider-Man soundtrack posters, and they gave us demos of the album, and we had the soundtrack, and we would play it in the store constantly. Oh, Chad Kroeger's Hero, which we opened up this episode with, was blasting in our Sam Goody constantly. I was just beyond excited for this damn thing.
Oh, I miss that. We need more iconic songs to promote movies. We don't have those anymore. But
yeah, it's pretty rare these days. All right, so I guess that's pretty much kind of wraps up our Spider-Man discussion.
All right, but before we go, I want to say 2 sentences about Spider-Woman, the cartoon that I watched.
Oh God, he's
Guys,
just dying to get to this.
I have to. I'm sorry, this was insane. Spider-Woman and Spider-Man go to Egypt and they fight alien mummies. And I don't mean mummies that come from space. I mean our mummies in Egypt come to life and they were secretly aliens the whole time lying in wait. And the pyramids are their spaceships.
That checks out. That's historically accurate, I'm sure.
1978 Spider-Woman. That is a historical document right there, ladies and gentlemen.
Did they win?
Of course, look, the Spider Twins beat the hell out of the alien mummies.
Kind of curious too.
But I do love the fact that it wasn't mummies from space. It was our mummies who were aliens somehow.
All along. They were the aliens all along.
They were aliens all
All
along.
Oh man.
But that's it. Okay, now I'm done. I wasn't gonna hold the show up long.
Now
I just
Grogan's
needed a
gonna go
minute.
watch Spider-Woman now.
Oh
Okay.
no,
Grogan, please look. We'll get together. We'll talk. I'm gonna watch the whole thing when I have time. It's only like a season. We'll get together. We'll get really drunk and we'll talk Spider-Woman.
I'm down with it. I'm down for that. By the way, we should
Let's
definitely
do
put
it.
that together.
Let's put that together.
All right. So, Jeannie, thank you so much for joining
Thank
us
you.
tonight on this
Thanks,
episode. We're
guys.
so excited
Great
to have
having
you
you.
here.
I'm so excited. I'm so excited to start our James Bond show, guys.
Me too. Oh, I'm pumped. Oh man.
Yeah, and I guess we'll perhaps we will see you on another episode of Granny's Peachy, since apparently you're in for Batman Forever.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're in now.
Oh man, please. So many things to say. I have so many things. So many wonderful things to say about the movie.
The fact that you made the Chase Meridian, like, that's not even a comic book character. You literally were just
She's
referencing
great.
that movie.
This is great. I love
Because
her.
earlier Jason had to say Batman and Forever, and that's where it was like spoon-fed to me to go with that.
And it, even going back to like just the Facebook page today, they was posting about Eddie was posting about the new Batman movie with the Riddler, and I was like, yeah, thank God we need a good Riddler. And he posted like the Jim Carrey Riddler, and like, no.
What do you mean? You have this man.
It's in the air.
We'll talk about that, Jimmy. You and I are going to talk about that on the show.
We sure will. Sure will.
Yeah, but thanks for joining us tonight. We really appreciate it.
Thanks.
Everyone who's joined us from any other, whether it was on the Facebook stream, on our group, on Pop Culture Bros group, go ahead and join both of those. Follow us. We got daily talk every day about comic book stuff that don't make the show. If you're watching us on YouTube, hit the subscribe button. Check our show out. You could also check out other stuff we have on the network. If you're into the New York Giants, you can check out Tim and Farachi. They have the We Stomped You Out show. If you're into wrestling, you can check out Tim again on the Just Too Sweet show. They're on Tuesday nights. They also have a strictly football show has to do with fantasy football and football overall. It's Unsportsmanlike Conduct. That's with Tim. They're on Wednesday nights as well. Let's see. I mean, Jada and Kyle talk about movies, but I just don't know where they are. But they do a good job at it when they do it, so they will be back, I'm sure, at some point.
They'll be back soon.
We hopefully they'll be back. We need them back.
We do.
A to Z, you can check out Eric, who covers everything literally from A to Z, and I know he's been doing some live random shows from up in Deposit, New York, so you can go ahead and check him out. Yeah, and then look out for 00 Deep Dive in November.
Coming November, beginning of November.
Yeah, Jason and Jeannie will be talking about the James Bond films, and I will pop in from time to time as well. And we'll see you guys next week, and we'll be talking about Spider-Man 2, which we'll be getting into, which I think a lot of us will hold in extremely high regard still.
Like, I'm not burying the lead here. That's one of my favorite superhero films of all time.
It is in my top 10 of all time.
Like, yeah, it's I own the Dr. Octopus action figure from the movie. I have the Alfred Molina version of Dr. Octopus, which I will bring on the episode next week.
That's a good one. Yeah. That's going to be a good one. We'll be talking about the season finale of Titan Season 3. The latest in Doom Patrol, the latest on Legends of Tomorrow, latest on Stargirl, Supergirl, and Batwoman, which Jason and I are actually on board with now, and we're not trashing it every week.
It is not. It was actually, again, it was good, and don't forget, we're going to be continuing Baywatch Nights. Going to be unhassling the Hoff. We took a little break. Eddie got sick. It just makes us realize that we need to unhassle the Hoff more. Jeannie, I don't know if I told you this, but beginning of every episode, just me. I watch an episode of Baywatch Nights and I take 6 minutes to talk about it.
Ooh, good luck. I watch Baywatch. I'm a Baywatch girl. I don't watch Baywatch.
I'm actually kind of really enjoying Baywatch Nights.
He is. By the way, Roy, good night. And yes, back to Formula.
Yeah, back to Formula. We got busy for a bit. Thanks for watching, Roy. I'd love to have you.
All right, everyone, have a good night. Stay safe. And we'll see you guys next week. Peace.
Later.